When the second test begins, the arena turns into a slaughterhouse. Most of the candidates panic, but our protagonist Yoon remains calm, leaning against the wall, as if he were watching a corpse being examined. Then comes the real surprise. In the final showdown, everyone expects Nying Bugang, the strongest one, to tear Yoon Seal to pieces. Bugang throws a storm of slashes, but Yoon Seal keeps dodging them because he has already mastered Bugang patterns. By studying the corpses he left behind, Yoon Seal provokes him on purpose, forcing Bugang to throw himself for a final blow, aimed at the head and the heart. In that one opening, Yoon Seal bends down and sticks his short sword into the weak spot on his neck that his grandfather taught him. Talking about his grandfather, it all starts with our protagonist narrating how the old man found him abandoned in the snow, and they gave him a very nice name, Bayan Seal. The old man decided to take him in and became his grandfather in the process. Apparently, the old man is a gravedigger, and Bayan Seal also learned the trade from him. The old man taught him everything that comes with being a gravedigger, and Yoon Seal learned with passion. Even the old man praised him, calling him a gift from heaven. Everything was going very well for Yoon Seal and his grandfather until one fateful day. They were about to sleep when the old man noticed something sinister in the air and woke up Yoon Seal. He suggests they play their usual game of playing dead and see who can do better. His grandfather promises to get him the clothes and the sword he has always wanted if he can hold the game until dawn. Yoon Seal is glad to hear this and wastes no time in agreeing to participate in the game. He slips into the small closet where he usually hides, and his grandfather urges him to stay there until the next morning. After closing the closet, the old man unpacks his sword and leaves the house to confront the enemy lurking in the shadows. It turns out that the two of them know each other, and the enemy addresses the old man as Buyan January, who was known as the Seven-Branch Demon Blade. The enemy scolds Jian Yang for leaving his post at the Demon Palace as Vice Master, only to become trash in the forest. The guy unleashes his anger on Jian Yang, but he is able to repel the initial attack, while telling him that he became a gravedigger, not to be trash, but to repent of his past sins. Jian Yang then tells the guy that he is ready to give up his life, but suggests that they take the fight elsewhere, to avoid dragging innocent lives into their private affairs. The guy agrees, but warns Jian Yang to forget about any idea of running away. Moments later, Yoon Seal can no longer contain himself inside the closet, and is forced to come out. Although he wanted the promised gifts very much, he could not stand the cold. Yoon Seal is surprised when he looks around, and sees that his grandfather is nowhere to be found, which is unusual. He has left the house, and sees what appears to be damage on the floor, and that's when he realizes that something could be wrong. He frantically runs into the forest, and, to his dismay, finds his grandfather barely clinging to life. Jian Yan's back is against a tree, and both his arms and eyes are missing. Yoon Seal runs to his grandfather with a lot of questions in his head. With tears in her eyes, she asks her almost dead grandfather what happened, and the only thing the man could do was apologize. The old man lets Yoon Seal know that he is about to die, but urges him not to continue on the path of being a gravedigger. Also, he tells Yoon Seal to forget about avenging him, but Yoon Seal screams in disagreement, saying that he cannot forgive those who did this to Jian Yan. Yoon Seal lets Jian Yang know that the only reason she will give up the quest for revenge is if she dies next to him. As he is about to lose what little life force he has left, Jian Yang makes one last request to Yoon Seal. He urges her to leave the place and go far away. Before finally falling to the ground and dying, Jian Yan lets Yoon Seal know that he enjoyed every moment they spent together. Yoon Seal can only watch in horror as his grandfather finally gives up the spirit, as his blood floods everything. When he finally takes Jian Yan's body back home, Yoon Seal burns with hatred and revenge. He lets the old man know that he has no intention of listening to him this time. He examines the body, and, thanks to the knowledge he obtained from the old man while he was still alive, he can deduce that he lost both arms at the same time. He was able to deduce the type of attacking move that is used to take down the old man. From how Hien Yang lost his arms to his eyes, Yoon Seal could imagine everything. After tying up all the ends, he realizes that there is only one faction that could have made such a move, and that is the demonic faction. Yoon Seal also deduces that the type of movement used was the Shansu Yoga technique. After examining Jian Yan's back, Yoon Seal realizes that a type of hidden weapon that could fire multiple projectiles at once was used during the attack. He also noticed that the bottom of Ji and Yan's tongue and nails are discolored, which is a clear feeling, a sign of poisoning. Putting all this together, Yoon Seal deduces that the attacker was someone from the demonic faction who has learned the Shansu Yoga technique and possesses a high-caliber weapon that causes poisoning. Since there can't be many people with the same trait and technique, Yoon Seal is determined to find the person who did this to his grandfather. Yoon Seon wastes no time in embarking on his journey of revenge, and is soon seen signing an agreement paper. While signing the papers, one of the instructors urges him to seal it quickly, but Yoon Seon leaves him stunned. When he opens his thumb to seal the papers with his own blood, Yoon Seal has been dedicated to revenge since his grandfather died, and he doesn't see himself taking any other path than this one. This is one more reason why he signs up for the competition, as he sees it as the first step to carrying out his revenge. In this world, the Miram is controlled by the orthodox and non-orthodox sects, and they have kept each other at bay. The orthodox sects are led by the Miram Alliance, as they are defenders of justice. On the other hand, non-orthodox sects focus on the demonic palace, which worships power instead of justice. Although they have been balancing each other for a long time, the orthodox sects decided that they wanted to take the lead. This led to the creation of the 18 martial masters, known as the Masters of the Greater Good. Due to the perceived threat, the demonic palace also decided to increase its power. In an attempt to do so, they devise a plan to create the 10 demonic masters. The unorthodox sect seeks to choose 10 talented young people and teach them the martial arts of the demonic sects. To make it interesting, they don't care about their past affiliations or what they were doing before opting for the competition. Because of this clause, a lot of young people headed to the demonic palace, and one of them was our guy, Yoon Seal. While standing in the crowd of young people like him, Yoon Seal can feel the threatening aura emanating from them, and deduces that one of them is probably associated with his grandfather's killer, as his target is someone of great ability. Yoon Seal knows that he has to become a martial master to have a chance against him. That is why he is determined to become one of the 10 demon masters in order to acquire the strength he needs to face his adversary. Moments later, a giant scary-looking man emerges to address the potential demon masters and introduces himself as Chief Instructor Yuk Ryung-hun. The guys are impressed when Yuk tells them who he is, and it seems that he is quite popular for his works. Yuk lets them know that they are there to identify the greatest prodigies among all the demonic sects, and only those who pass the tests prepared by them will become candidates to be one of the 10 demonic masters. And for the first test, he tells them that the martial artists of the demonic palace will inspect their physique. The moment the guys hear this, they start complaining because they don't see it as a test, as they were expecting something quite intense for the competition. Martial masters ignore their concerns and start inspecting their bodies to see who is worthy or not. Those with burly bodies, on the other hand, are relieved and happy to get a free pass to the next stage. One of the instructors, Jinguk, approaches a shield to inspect its body. The moment he touches her body, he thinks to himself that a shield is dead. He wonders why a shield decided to participate in the first place, but notices the terrifying murderous intent emanating from a shield's body. However, Jin-gak realizes that it would be disastrous if he allowed a shield to pass to the next stage. Because of this, he does not allow her to pass, and Yoon Seal is not surprised. He already knows that he has no chance of passing, because he does not have the physique, since the only thing he has done in his entire life is take care of corpses. However, Yoon Seal is convinced that they haven't reached the end yet. Moments later, the instructor tells them that the first test is over, and one of the boys bursts out in anger, protesting that his way of doing things is unfair. He asks why they bother to organize a competition if physical fitness is the only thing they are worried about. Yuk responds by telling the boy that he doesn't know anything. Yuk says that the most important thing when learning martial arts are muscles and bones. Yuk mocks the guy for failing at his most basic standard, even though they made sure to open their doors to everyone. The boy argues that they are supposed to have a chance, and that's when Yuk replies that he has nothing to worry about because the second test is coming, and he plans to choose those who can learn martial arts. Even with his poor physical condition, Yuk wastes no time in announcing that they have reached the second test. Surprisingly, the second test requires them to fight each other to survive, until only one person remains. Most boys are surprised to hear the instruction given to them, but the overwrought boy from before wastes no time in preparing. Since he is required to kill someone, he already has his sights set on his targets, and this target seems to be a shield. He immediately grabs a spear and throws it in the direction of a shield, with the fierce determination to send it to the afterlife. The spear was pointing fiercely towards the position of a shield, but in the end it turns out that he was not the target. The spear impaled the guy next to him, dressed in red, who turns out to be a rival of the attacker. The guy in red screams in pain as he falls to the ground and coughs up blood before dying. The blood from the attack splatters on a seal's face as he watches the guy lying in a pool of his own blood. Yoon Seal can't believe he's looking at a dead guy who just got killed with a spear. With just one glance, Yoon Seal can deduce the circumstances surrounding the guy's death. He deduces that the spear hit the heart, narrowly dodging the ribs, which is a clear indication that the attacker, Bonchen, is quite agile. Bonchen starts bragging as he has knocked down an opponent. From where he is, Yuk deduces that Bonchen can make quick decisions, but he thinks he lacks common sense. He is disappointed and concludes that the boys are a bunch of fools. Jengak agrees with him, because showing yourself as a threat in such an environment will only put a target on your back. However, he believes that this will make the other competitors get serious and realize how deadly the situation is. Before long, chaos erupts and the entire arena turns into a slaughterhouse. The younger guys who are not used to seeing death start to panic, but Yuki and Hingik suddenly notice one of the guys acting very calmly. He is leaning against the wall and is not worried about the chaos that occurs in front of life. To him, he also sees a shield acting cool-headed in the midst of chaos, and this causes him to retract his initial statement that everyone is dumb. Shield remains in a state of calm, as he believes that the boys are fools because they have all been lost in the fear of death. The order was to stay alive until the end, which means that the most important thing is to stay alive, not to kill. Yoon Seal realizes that he can survive if he is able to think rationally and act coolly. Yoon Seal bends down to touch the bodies lying on the ground to find out how they died. While doing this, one of the boys wielding a long-range weapon notices Yoon Seal and realizes that he has not been participating in all the chaos. Meanwhile, Yoon Seal is concentrating on evaluating the bodies to find out the kind of movements that killed them. The guy watching him is upset and throws his gun at Yoon Seal. The weapon barely grazes the head of a shield and shatters the box on his back. The guy teases Yoon Seal, asking him what's the point of the box he's carrying, like he's a monk. It turns out that the box contained the birthday gifts he received from his grandfather, and destroying the box simply angered him. There's a short sword inside, but the guy attacking doesn't think Yoon Seal has what it takes to fight him. He teases a seal by saying that he has an insignificant sword, but while he is distracted with Yoon Seal, the calm guy from earlier appears behind him and knocks him down. The quiet guy then boastfully tells a shield that he doesn't need to thank him because he served as the best distraction to kill his opponent. While he's saying all this, a shield is focused on what he's doing and continues to ignore the guy. The guy can see that a seal doesn't know martial arts and thinks he's an easy prey. While he is concentrating on a seal, a guy appears from behind and tries to attack him, but he knocks him down easily as if he had eyes in his back. Yuk asks Hingik about the quiet guy because he holds a special sword known as the Extermination Sword. Do you want to know why he carries the sword inherited from the Black Soul, who was hailed as the strongest wandering swordsman? Hingik reveals that the guy's name is Non-Bugong, and there are reports that he discovered the secret Black Soul manual, along with his sword. Apparently, Bugong trained using the manual, becoming the only disciple of the Black Soul. Jingik says that Bugong may lack physique, but he is still the favorite to win the competition, because there is no candidate who seems to be stronger than him. However, Jingik believes that things could change, depending on unforeseen variables. After the chaos calms down, Bugong and Yoon Seal are the last surviving candidates, and Bugong expresses his surprise that Yoon Seal managed to make it to the end. Bugong eagerly tells Yoon Seal that he will be considered a candidate of the 10 Demon Masters and kills him. so he is already eager to do so. Although Ashiel knows that he is facing what seems to be the strongest guy in the arena, he does not seem scared, as he maintains his usual cold expression, and this is because he has discovered what his weakness is. And Ashiel arms himself with his short sword with the confidence that he can really win the fight. Bugin decides to play a little with Junseal swinging his sword at him, while throwing several slashes at him at the same time. Surprisingly, Junseal is able to dodge all the chopping blocks without suffering a serious injury to his body. Yuk and Jingik watch this from afar, and although it looks like Junseal is being slaughtered, they can see that Junseal was able to turn his body enough at the end of each blow to avoid a fatal wound. Suddenly, Jingik realizes that Junseal has mastered Bugang's attack patterns by examining the corpses he left behind. Jingak is impressed by Junseal's level of observation. Yunseal decides to provoke Bugang by telling him that his sword skills are trash because all he has done is cut his flesh and not cause any real damage. Hingik senses that Junseal is provoking Bugang, but he worries that he won't be able to land the decisive counterattack that is needed to finish the fight. Junseal's plan works, and Bugang gets so angry that he goes after him furiously in an attempt to finish him off. As Bugang hurtles towards Junseal, he realizes that he only has one chance and is able to figure out what to do. Thanks to the corpses he has examined, he has noticed that the final blow of Bugang instinctively points to the points vital of the opponent, which are the heart and the head. As this is the case, Junseal has already prepared a plan. Just as Bugang's sword is about to reach him, Junseal ducks down, finally dodging the incoming attack, leaving Bugang quite exposed to Junseal's attack. In the past, his grandfather had told him about the specific position on the neck that is vulnerable for almost all martial artists. Even a child can knock down a martial artist if he hits the acupuncture point with precision and the force necessary to pierce the area. This is the exact position that Jun waves to point, and without realizing it, Bugang has exposed himself for Junseal's short sword to penetrate. With no room to react, Bugang finds his neck hanging from Junseal's short sword as his blood gushes in excess. In the end, Bugang's body crashes to the ground, leaving Aseel Khan as the sole survivor of the battle. Jingik and Yuk are both surprised to see this, as it turns out to be the unexpected variable that Jingik was talking about. Yuk was disappointed that Bugang died at the hands of Aseel because he had high expectations, as he was using the soul sword arts. Black. However, Yuk has no choice but to declare Junseal as the winner of the second test. Junseal suddenly sees himself in a blank space, with his grandfather standing in the distance. He runs excitedly to his grandfather, but his joy fades when his grandfather turns around without eyes. His grandfather frantically tells him that he can't see him, and a wave of reality immediately hits Ashiel. Just then, Junseal suddenly comes to and realizes that he is on a boat. He realized that he must have fainted from the loss of blood, but he noticed something surprising. He knows that he suffered fatal injuries in the fight, but he does not feel any pain from said injuries. He realizes that he must have been treated by a high-level doctor from the demonic palace. He also notices that the other guys on the boat seem well-trained, and that's when he realizes that they must be the ones who survived the first test. Moments later, the hatch above them opens, and Jingik appears, telling them to disembark because they have reached their destination, which is the next test area called Hell Island. Jingik shouts at the candidates, telling them to follow him, as he guides them to a block of caves that will serve as their dwellings. He tells them to get rid of their previous clothes and weapons, and to leave the caves after they finish putting on the prepared clothes and swords. Apparently, they are allowed to choose the cave that they think suits them best. In a short time, Junseal has located what seems to be the best place where he can stay. On the other hand, two guys are arguing about who should choose a particular place, both claiming that they have the right to it. Soon a third one appears, urging them to stop fighting over the caves because there are a lot of good places to choose from. Deep down, Junseal is making fun of the candidates because none of them know what happened during the second test, and they have all let down their guard. Junseal notices that most of them are wearing expensive clothes, which is an indication that they might all be members of prestigious clans. Junseal finally realizes that the second test was a way to eliminate those whom they could kill. While he is busy standing assessing the situation, Jingik appears behind him, asking him why he hasn't chosen the cave yet, as he has been quite slow since the beginning. It turns out that Jingik has been interested in a seal since the last test, and he is waiting to see which cave he would choose. She urges him to make a quick choice, and Yoon Seal points to the cave with a small entrance. The cave also has mud coming out of it, and one of the candidates mocks him for choosing a cave according to his status. On the other hand, Jingik is extremely impressed, and he considers a shield no less than a genius by his choice. The cave may seem small, but that's just the entrance, and the inside of the cave is big enough for training. In addition, the small entrance helps to defend against intruders, and most people avoid the cave after seeing the entry, but Jingik is pleased that a seal has assessed everything very well. Moments later, the candidates emerge from the caves wearing their black attire, and everyone gathers to listen to what Jingik has to say. Jingik explains that Hell Island is home to 10 arts installations, martial arts, and they can learn one of the 10 martial arts of the demonic sects in each of the buildings. Apparently, they are free to learn all the arts or focus on one in particular. In addition, they have freedom over their schedule, since they can sleep, play, train, or do whatever they feel like. Yoon Seal is surprised to hear this because the second test was nothing but hell, and he doesn't think they're going to let them do whatever they want. Candidates waste no time debating which arts they are supposed to learn first. Most people think that the Fire and Rain Sword Sect martial arts is the choice. Correct, since they are considered the strongest. Yoon Seal watches as everyone runs towards the Rain of Fire building, which is considered the strongest sect. Yoon Seal agrees that the Rain of Fire is amazing, but he doesn't think it will be useful to him, since he has never learned martial arts before. He wastes no time in figuring out which martial arts would be most useful to him. Yoon Seo then approaches the Wandering Beast Pavilion, which is a ramshackle-looking building. Apparently, the sect has gone to ruin over the years, and is barely holding its own among the 10 demonic sects. The only reason they still maintain their status is because of their track record of producing a lot of strong martial artists over the years. Yoon Seal remembers that his grandfather told him about the sect some time ago. Suddenly, Yoon Seal notices movements on the ground, and before he knows it, a head emerges from the ground. The guy asks him if he has come to the building, hoping to become one of the 10 demon masters. It turns out that the guy is the master of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, Sagwo. Yoon Seal finally pulls himself together and tells Sagwo that he has come to learn the martial arts of the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Sagwo takes a quick look at a seal and sees how fragile his body is. After assessing the situation, he tells a seal to leave, because he has no intention of teaching him martial arts. He lets Yoon Seal know that he is a fragile child, and that he might die with the training. Yoon Seal tries to plead his case by telling Sagwo that he has heard that he can survive anything if he learns the martial arts of the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Sagwo expresses his surprise that Yoon Seal even knows about the wandering martial arts, as they are about to become extinct. However, Sagwo lets Yoon Seal know that his martial arts are quite difficult to learn, and this applies even to those who have considered themselves geniuses. Sagwo says that his martial arts start with body modification, and from what he sees, Yoon Seal will die in a day if he tries his training. He suggests to Yoon Seal to leave, but Yoon Seal suddenly makes a cool move by bowing to Sagwo and thanking him for agreeing to teach him his martial arts. This is enough for Sagwo to realize that he is dealing with a crazy guy, and this forces him to finally agree to become the master of a seal. However, Sagwo lets a shield know that he is only teaching her because the demonic palace ordered him to. Sego finally comes out from under the earth and tells Yoon Seal to start calling him Master S. Yoon Seal introduces himself, but Sego stops him, telling him that he is just the #1 apprentice. Without wasting time, Sego suggests that they start with training, and he raises his hand while making a peculiar gesture with his fingers. Ia's soul is suddenly hit by a strong wave, and before he knows it, he realizes that he has gone blind. Before he panics, Sagu tells him not to worry, because he only sealed his vision temporarily, using one of the sect's secret techniques. Sagu states that this is a necessary step to learn the way of the Wandering Beast, which is a basic martial technique of the sect. Yoon Seal is confused by everything he has just heard, and Sagu explains that the Wandering Beast's path is meant to sharpen all his senses, and give him reflexes comparable to those of a beast. Sagu reveals that the martial arts of the sects are different from those of other sects because they vary depending on the person learning them. This is the reason why the Wandering Beast path, which is considered a basic technique, is also difficult, causing only a few to learn or master it. However, Sagu lets Yoon Seal know that if he can learn it, he will get the senses of a wandering beast. Sagu confidently jokes that most die before reaching this point. He then tells Yoon Seal that he will be back in about an hour and urges him, getting used to being blind by then. After Saguo's departure, Yoon Seal realizes that he is wrong about something. He thought that his other senses would be sharpened by having lost his sight, but it does not seem to be so. He remembers that Saguo said it would take an hour to return and realizes that it is a long time on its way. He realizes that he has to adapt as quickly as possible because he is in a competition. And if he's suddenly ambushed in his current situation, he's finished. Yoon Seal immediately imagines himself being ambushed, sending a feeling of fear and adrenaline through his body that drives him to jump from point A to point B. However, Yoon Seal loses and realizes that working on his balance is very important since he has lost his sight. An hour later, Sabu returns, expecting to see Yoon Seal running around the place in fear. But to his maximum surprise, he sees a seal jumping around, which is something quite unique. Saguo realizes that a seal is imagining a false enemy, which is why he has adapted to his lack of vision quite quickly. However, Saguo is not impressed and decides to put a shield to the test. He throws a mandible at him with his sword, telling him to try to dodge it. The training between the two continues, and 3 days later, Yoon Seal has been beaten several times by Saguo. Saguo is surprised that Yoon Seal hasn't started questioning his training method, but is accepting it. Saguo then asks Yoon Seal why he doesn't say anything or question his training method. Yoon Seal replies that Saguo had initially said that the essence of the knight-errant pavilion martial arts is to achieve enlightenment, and because of that, he believes that there is a reason behind everything he is doing. Sagu is impressed by his soul's response and tells him that he is actually right with his answer. Then he suggests that they continue their training. Sagu charges towards a soul, but this time, a soul's senses are activated, and he can suddenly feel Sagu's movement towards him. Although he can feel it, he realizes that he cannot dodge it, leaving him only one option, which is to block the attack. At the last second of the attack, Yoon Seal raises his sword and manages to block Sagu's attack before it hits. This surprises Sagu to the bone because he didn't expect Yoon Seal to be able to do this after only 3 days. However, Yoon Seal's blocking was insufficient, and the attack still sent him to the ground. Just then, Sagu throws a bamboo bottle at him, telling him to drink the contents of the bottle. Yoon Seal drinks it, expecting it to be water, but to his surprise, it's not. Before you know it, energy is already flowing through your body, and it's as if all your lost nutrients are being replenished. It turns out that the liquid is the spiritual spring water that Sue had kept all his life. Although Sagu gave it to her, she's not worried that it was a waste. And this is because she thinks she just met the once-in-a-lifetime genius she's been begging for her whole life. After regaining their strength, training begins again, and they face each other with great intensity. After attacking each other for a couple of minutes, Saguo suddenly stopped attacking and burst out imprisoned, as she had finally found what she had been looking for all along. Suddenly, Yoon Seal realizes that he can see again, and with a voice full of honesty, Saguo urges him to forget about becoming one of the 10 demon masters and become an official disciple of his sect. Saguo assures him that he will make him one of the 10 strongest martial masters of the demonic faction in just 10 years. And he accepts. When Yoon Seal hears this, he is very tempted by the offer because he doesn't think Sago is lying. But then he remembers that his grandfather's killer is a skilled warrior. Because of this, Yoon Seal does not think that he would be satisfied with learning the martial arts of the Wandering Beast Pavilion alone. Yoon Seal then humbly rejects the offer, telling Saguo that he wants to become a demon master. Saguo then tells him that he can forget that he can learn the martial arts of the 10 demonic sects because it is impossible even for someone like the great heavenly demon emperor. He has enough talent to create his own martial arts. Saguo goes on to say that each martial art is suitable for a certain physique, and a certain type of energy. He mentions that no matter how talented a person is, he can only learn 2 or 3 types of martial arts. So focusing on one martial art is the shortcut to becoming the strongest of the demonic faction. Even with all his preaching, Yoon Seal shows no signs of changing his mind, leaving Sagwo no choice but to retreat. Although he is disappointed, Yoon Seal tells him that he's going to teach him a different martial art. Yoon Seal is shocked to hear this because he has only learned the basics of the Wandering Beast sect, and Sagwo lets him know that the sect's arts are not transmitted through steps or theory. In addition to this, Sagwo tells Yoon Seal that he has been practicing the way of the beast, wild beast of his sect. It is then that Yoon Seal realizes that all the sword strikes that Sagwo unleashed on him were actually forms of the wild beast path. Yoon Seal is extremely grateful for this and bows down to Sagwo, thanking him for his help so far. Seguin is at Yoon Seal, the one to stop thanking him because it was simply an order from the demonic palace. Yoon Seal, on the other hand, argues that he will never forget what Sego did for him, because he even gave him elixirs. But Sego urges him to forget it. Sagu mentions that this is how Hai Nu is, and it would be much better for him if he could forget about favors and grudges. With everything settled, Yoon Soo kneels down to bow to Sagu before finally leaving. Sagu watches him with surprise and utmost respect as he walks away, wondering where such a jewel came from. As Yoon Soo walks through the forest, he realizes that he is basically feeling everything that is happening around him, and wonders if it is because he has learned the way of the wild beast. Due to how exhausting it is, Yoon Seal realizes that she has to find a way to control it, because she would never be able to rest properly if this continues. At that moment, he decides to suppress his senses as much as he can. He manages to do so, and realizes that there is a clear difference between what seems normal and his usual heightened senses. Yoon Seal pulls out his map to see where he should learn next. He realizes that they are in training with limited time, and he needs to hurry up. After thinking about it very carefully, he realizes that he has to go with the founder of the demon sect that rivaled the great heavenly demon emperor 700 years ago. And speaking of which, he is the founder of the Fire Rain Sword sect. Since he may not have time on his side, Yoon Seal will be. He realizes that the strongest sect of the 10 demonic sects might be his only option. Upon arriving at the building, he realizes that it is quite exclusive, compared to the Wandering Beast Pavilion Martial Hall. There is a knock at the door, and the instructor from inside wonders who it could be. The instructor, Janguk, opens the door, and is surprised to see Yoon Seal at the door. Yoon Seal bows down to him, telling him that he has come to learn the martial arts of the Fire Rain Sword sect. Even Seal is shocked when he realizes that Janguk is a martial master of the Fire Rain Sword sect. Janguk tells Seal to follow him, and lets him know that the candidates who entered earlier have already completed the elementary test, and have passed to the intermediate test. Apparently, there are 3 sections there, which are the elementary, intermediate, and advanced levels. Jin Gak then asks him why he just arrived at the Reign of Fire sect after 2 weeks, and Yoon Seal reveals that he was learning martial arts at the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Jingik then casually asks if he has learned the way of the wild beast, and Yoon Seal affirms it, surprising Jingik. He doesn't want to believe that Yoon Seal really mastered the wild beast path in just 2 weeks, although he's pretty sure he's a genius. He thinks Sagu dispatched him after he couldn't handle him. Once they arrive at the training hall, Jinhik gets serious and introduces himself to Yoon Seal, revealing that he is in charge of the beginner's test. Jinhik asks Yoon Seal if he is really interested in learning the sword art of the Reign of Fire, because it would be better for him to go to another martial arts hall. Yoon Seal replies that he appreciates Hingik's concern, but lets him know that he is interested in the sword arts of the Fire Rain Sword sect. That being the case, Hingik hits the ground with his foot, and the training manual appears next to him. Jin Gak tells Yoon Seal that the manual is the introductory form, and the practical method of the 13 forms of the Reign of Fire. He urges him to study the manual and train himself. However, Yoon Seal is confused because all he can see are strokes written on a big note, with no idea what he is supposed to do with it. Hingik is shocked to hear this, forcing him to ask Yoon Seal if he can read a sword manual. Yoon Seal then gives him an even more surprising answer, telling him that he really can't because until the competition, he had never learned anything about swordsmanship. This answer gives Hingik chills, leaving him completely dumbfounded. Hingik is forced to ask again, and Yoon Seo affirms it, saying that he had no prior knowledge of life, of martial arts. Instead of being disappointed, Hingik is really impressed because he has seen what Yoon Seo has done so far and realizes that if he is taught properly, he will become exceptional. Hingik then asks Yoon Seo if he can read even though he can't see or follow the steps of the sword. And Yoon Seo says yes. Yoon Seo then reads aloud what is written in the manual, which are basically instructions to follow before practicing the movements of the manual. Yoon Seo tries to follow the guide, but ends up making a mess, leaving Hingik in extreme shock. He can't believe that he is about to start teaching a Shield how to move or behave properly. In a place where they are supposed to choose one of the 10 demonic masters, Hingik walks up to a sill and positions his body as it is supposed to be, telling him how to relax his body, so that his core is not tense. Immediately, Hingik explains this. Yoon Seo corrects his posture, and Hingik is finally impressed that Yoon Seo understood without stressing him. Since his posture has been corrected, Hingik tells Yoon Seo that he is going to teach him the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire without further delay. He hands her a sword and begins to show her how to move her body with the right adjustments and precision. As usual, Yoon Seo is able to follow everything Hingik shows him in the right way. Hingik stares and is totally impressed, which leads him to accept the reality that a seal is nothing less than talented. After several training sessions, Hingik tells him to imagine an enemy in front of him and use the 13 forms of the fire shower. Yoon Seo is initially confused by what Hingik means by creating a fake enemy, but Hingik explains that this is the criterion he needs to passive. He wants to get to the intermediate room. Apparently, this is to see the intention of the sword present in its basic movements. The moment a Shield hears this, he realizes that he has finally had the opportunity to prove himself, and he needs to do it quickly. Since the opportunity came soon, just as expected, the enemy they imagine is none other than the guy who sent their grandfather to the afterlife. Yoon Seo draws his sword and unleashes the first of the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire with precision and fury. Hingik is stunned to see the way Yoon Seo moves with the sword and executes the movements. Yoon Seo continues to move through the 13 forms, but Hingik soon notices that there is a modification in the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire. The sword technique is usually gentle and energetic, but Yoon Seo is using the technique in a very sharp way. Hingik can't believe what is happening in front of him, because changing the basic movements of a sword technique is something possible only for a grandmaster. Hingik also notices that the movements of the sword are imbued with a terrifying murderous intent, as if he is facing someone who has deeply wounded him. Hingik does not want to believe that the sword movements of the Rain of Fire sect, which are considered orthodox, are being changed, as if nothing had happened. Because of this, he begins to realize that Yoon Seo must have had a unique life while growing up. Before long, Yoon Seo also realizes that he is already altering the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire. He wonders if the way of the wild beast is the reason for this, and although he would have loved to merge the two fighting styles, he realizes that it would end up becoming a completely different swordsmanship and not the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire. With this in mind, he quickly switches back to the 13 natural forms of the Rain of Fire, and this time, it seems even more dangerous than before. He imagines his target in front of him, and starts unleashing all the rage he has inside. Hingik watches in amazement, and is forced to admit that Yoon Seo is incredibly fast. As he gets closer to his target, Yoon Seo gets lost in the moment, and as if his target is real, he realizes that he cannot allow his target to escape. Because of this, he decides to use all the techniques he has left at once. Yoon Seo unleashes all his fury at once, and delivers several dangerous cuts to make sure he takes down his enemy. But he does it in such a way that it affects him, making him lose his balance and the grip of his sword. Jinwak watches as Yoon Seo loses to his opponent, but instead of being angry, he is really impressed. Yoon Seo is shocked when she hears Jinwak tell her that he passed the test. Hingik then explains to him that what is really tested is his understanding of the sword, and his execution of the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire in a real fight. Jingik helps Yoon Seal pick up his sword, and tells him that he met the criteria set for the test. Jingik lets Yoon Seal know that his fire rain technique is pretty amazing, and urges him to head to the middle chamber. Yoon Seal is extremely grateful for what Jingik did for him, because he knows how annoying and stressful it must have been to teach him about swordsmanship when he had no prior knowledge of it. Yoon Seal shows his gratitude by bowing down to Jingik, thanking him for everything so far. Jingik then tells Yoon Seal to keep working hard, and then mentions that he could feel the strong killing intent coming from his sword. As a last piece of advice, Jingik urges a soul not to lose himself due to murderous intent. As they say goodbye, Jingik finally understands the fact that a soul learned the way of the wild beast in just 2 weeks, because his learning speed is amazing. Because of this, he is even moving to the intermediate chamber much faster than Jingik himself expected. Jingik initially doubted Yoon Seal's ability to make it to the intermediate chamber, but after their session together, he is confident that he will make it. Also, Jingak is pretty sure that the intermediate camera instructor Chien Bogang would be obsessed with Yoon Seal. By the time he spends some time with him, Yoon Seal soon arrives at the intermediate chamber, and the instructor does not welcome him with open arms, as he urges him to stretch out because they are already full. Shin acts coldly towards him because he is not impressed by the fact that a shield has just passed the elemental chamber. After weeks of training, Shin says Yoon Seal doesn't stand a chance in the middle chamber with the kind of talent he has. In his defense, Yoon Seal explains to Shin that he was late because he spent time training at the Wandering Beast Pavilion. When Zion hears this, he is still unimpressed, as he believes that a shield must have escaped the training of the wild beast, thanks to the intense training there. However, as the son passed the elementary test, Shen has no choice but to tell him to take a seat with the rest of the candidates. Zion then continues his teaching, telling the candidates that the thunder sword of the rain of fire they are about to learn is made of quick movements, and if they're not skilled with the sword, they're going to end up hurting themselves. Kain goes on to say that the thunder sword is quite difficult to use in combat, just like the 13 forms of the rain of fire. However, they are required to learn it because it is a basic martial art, and the main goal is to sharpen their swordsmanship, not to win. Chien then calls one of the candidates, Jackinson. For his practical purpose, Chien tells him to choose an opponent for a duel. Yak smiles maliciously before asking if he is allowed to choose anyone, and Chien says yes. Unsurprisingly, Baek points at Yoon Seal, saying that he wants him as his opponent. Chien wants to debate this, but Baek reminds him that he already told him that he could choose anyone. Chien still tries to oppose the decision by asking Baek how he plans to test his knowledge against someone who just joined the class. Chien urges Yoke to choose someone else, but Yoon Seal suddenly interrupts, telling the instructor that he agrees. Chien is shocked to hear this, and Yoon Seal tells Chien that he learned how to use Jingik's sword. Yoon Seal says he believes he has a better chance of learning if he practices against others. For Chien, Yoon Seal is just trying to protect his ego, but it's not going to stop him. Chien then tells them to continue, saying that he hopes they can make it to the advanced chamber. Baek, on the other hand, considers himself the luckiest guy on the planet, because he just got a rookie that he can crush any way he wants. He's even planning to kill Unseal so he can show how skilled he is to the rest of the class. The two arm themselves with wooden swords in preparation for battle. Baek praises Unseal for her bravery, but tells her that she needs more than bravery if she is going to survive on the Mirren. Baek wastes no time and lunges towards Unseal, but Unseal easily dodges his attack. Baek is impressed, but thinks Unseal won't be able to keep up. He attacks hard again, forcing Unseal to block his next attack with his sword, instead of dodging it. By the way their swords collide, Baek can see that Unseal is really a beginner, and this makes him even happier. Baek continues to have fun with Yoon-Seal, and even unleashes the Thunder Sword technique, but Jun-Seol remains calm, as he dodges everything Baek throws at him. At this point, frustration has started to show, and Chien can see it. He realizes that Baek might not be skilled with the sword, but at the same time, Yoon-Seal is dodging everything, as if he is predicting Baek's movements. This begins to convince Chien that a shield might have actually learned the way of the wild beast. Since he is a martial artist, he knows how difficult it is to learn the way of the wild beast, even if it is just a basic technique. As it is usually learned by experienced martial masters, Baek does not want to believe that there is a shield already learned in just 2 weeks. Chien decides to get serious and tells Yoon-sil that the duel is not just about dodging, because he is watching to see his sword skills, and also to test his reflexes. Hearing this, Yoon-sil decides to get serious with Baek and goes after him with the 13 forms of the fire rain. However, Baek does not feel any threat from the technique because it seems to be slightly different from the 13 ways. He's confident enough to think he can dodge the cut with little to no effort. However, he soon realizes that he might be wrong, because the sword technique attacks him with such force that he finds himself in difficulties. Several questions start going through Baek's head, as he wonders if Jun-shin was intentionally testing him with a variant of the 13 ways just to tease him. He also wonders if Unzu is doing this to him, so that the instructor will automatically promote him to the advanced chamber. Realizing that, the way things are going, he is going to be disgraced, Baek decides to resort to another sword style, the Asura sword style. He throws the blood-shattering punch in an attempt to take down a seal in one fell swoop. Apparently, the sword style is a lethal move of the Asura sword sect. And since Chen didn't restrict the kind of sword styles they could use, he can't stop the fight. Suddenly, Chijun realizes that even facing a dangerous fighting style, Jun-sil has kept the team. The thought that Jun-sil actually learned the way of the wild beast crosses his mind once again, though he still doesn't want to believe it. Yoon-sil continues to dodge the incoming attacks, forcing Baek to resort to an even more deadly technique, the Bloodwind Moon. Even Chien is shocked to see this, and watches in horror as Baek jumps into the air towards Jun-sil. Everything happens so fast, and by the time everything becomes clear for everyone, Jun-sil's sword is heading towards Baek's chest, with the help of the 13th form of the fire rain. And the shield looks pretty cool as he retracts his sword, and Baek coughs up blood before falling to the ground, appearing to have been killed by the blow of a shield. Everyone's eyes light up with shock and horror as they try to take in the fact that Baek might actually be dead. Yoon-sil walks away to return the training sword, and Chien stands over Baek's body to see that he is really dead, because he was hit at a very vital point. Chien then turns to a shield and asks him if he has always been a disciple of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, but he says no. Chien is forced to ask him if he really mastered the Wild Beast Trail in just 2 weeks, and Yoon-sil replies that all he did was learn the basics. Chien smiles in disgust upon hearing this, as what he just witnessed doesn't seem to be basic in any way. He teases Yoon-sil by asking if he has been taught to learn to. Yoon-sil tries to defend himself, but Chien interrupts him, telling him to clean up the mess he has made. Soon complaints erupt among the candidates who believe that it is wrong that Yoon-sil committed a murder during a normal training session. Everyone expects him to be punished for this, but Chien quickly clarifies his mistake. He lets them know that it may be called a martial chamber, but they should not confuse it with one. It reminds them that they are on Hell Island, and if they use a technique intended to kill the opponent, they should expect the same to be used against them. With this in mind, Chien starts the training session again, and the candidates start practicing with each other. Those who lost during the training session are sent away by Chien, while he tells them that they have failed the test. He tells them that they are free to find another martial hall that will take them in because their time with the Fire Rain sect is over. Failed candidates are asking for more opportunities, but Chien tells them that they will have no more chances. Chien says that they could have passed the first test because they were in shape, but in order to learn the Sword of the Rain of Fire, they will need potential and talent to overcome even their own limits. Because they lack the qualities to overcome their own limits, they failed. After the unsuccessful and the successful candidates left the hall, Chien realizes that Jun-sil is still there, and asks him what he is still doing. Confused, Jun-sil asks Chien if he should leave too, and Chien says yes. He tells her that he won and has obtained the state to move to the advanced camera. However, Jun-sil tells Chien that he prefers to stay in the middle chamber. Chien is confused and asks Jun-sil why he would choose to do that. Jun-sil explains that the only technique he learned was the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire, and that he hasn't learned anything yet, nothing in the middle chamber. Qian is surprised that Ashiel learned the path of the wild beast, which allowed him to see through Bayek's attack, but he claims that he has not learned anything. Without apologizing, Yoon Seon maintains his stance that he hasn't learned anything yet. Realizing that Yoon Seon has no intention of giving up, Qian has no choice but to agree to teach him the thunderous sword of the Rain of Fire, which is the enhancement of the 13 forms of the Rain of Fire. However, he lets Yoon Seol know that he hates when people try to play tricks on him to try to impress him. He sternly tells Yoon Seol that he will behead him if he finds out that he has learned any other sword techniques besides the 13 forms of the Fire Rain. 4 days after this, Yoon Seol is still training with Qian, and they have gone through rigorous sessions together. Qian has reviewed all the methods he knows while training Yoon Seol, and has confirmed that he really lacks the fundamentals of sword techniques. Although he has just started learning sword techniques, his determination and concentration are something worth mentioning. Qian can see the fierce determination written all over Ashiel's face, as if he was going to die if he didn't learn martial arts. Qian finally realized how it was possible for Yoon Seol to learn the wild beast path in just 2 weeks. To make it more interesting, Yoon Seol is already handling the thunderous sword technique, showing how amazing his learning speed is. Yoon Seol is training hard like sewing, when Qian tells him to stop, telling him that he has learned the principles of the thunderous sword of the Rain of Fire. Yoon Seol is skeptical upon hearing this, and Qian explains to him that the thunderous sword of the Rain of Fire is a sword technique that quickly rotates the body to help perform various movements. Qian mentions that moves aren't something he can really use in an actual battle. However, Qian has noticed that Yoon Seol is trying to use all the techniques in real life, as if he is trying to end someone's life. Yoon Seol is confused because he thinks that one learns sword techniques to be able to use them in real life. Qian admits that murderous intent is necessary in the demonic arts, but at the same time, by aspiring to a higher realm, the sword of the Rain of Fire abandons the murderous aspect. Qian tells Ashiel that he has to get rid of the murderous intention he has in his head, or else he will end up creating a martial art that will harm him. Finally, Yoon Seol realizes that Qian is saying pretty much the same thing that Jingik told him. Qian confesses that he too has lived with murderous intent in the past, forcing him to kill everyone who got in his way. However, this caused him to lose his honor and pride, and his martial prowess fell apart. Qian goes on to say that the techniques are meant to kill, and may give the illusion that they will lead one to a higher realm, but in reality, it is an obstacle in the way of fencing. As if talking to his son, Qian lets Yoon Seol know that he has to abandon his murderous intent. Just when he hears this, Yoon Seol remembers what his grandfather once told him about those who wield the sword. His grandfather once told him that those who wield a sword have a past stained with despair and nothing but misfortunes, which is why people in the Murin hate talking about their past. Yoon Seol then asks Qian why he is telling him all these things, and Qian lets him know that he is doing so that he will know that he too once lived with murderous intent. Qian then asks Yoon Seol his name, and when he tells him, he realizes that he was the one who survived the second test that Jingik told him about. Qian then tells Yoon Seol that he has a big problem on his hands, and when Yoon Seol asks what it is, Qian lets him know that he lacks the basics of martial arts. Qian explains that those he competes with have been learning martial arts since they were children. Qian says that the gap between them would only widen if he started learning the Fire Rain sword technique in the advanced chamber. Qian tells Ashiel that he has to master the basic martial arts quickly, in order to have the fundamental foundation on which to build the sword of the Rain of Fire. Because of this, Qian decides that he is going to teach Yoon Seol the unparalleled lightning and thunder technique that he created himself. However, before they start, he lets Yoon Seol know that he has destroyed all the nerve endings on his fingers, because he failed to master such a technique. This shows how dangerous the technique is, and if things go wrong, Yoon Seol might lose control of his arms instead. If this happens, he will not be able to pass to the advanced chamber, but will become a cripple. With the warning made, Qian asks Yoon Seol if he still wants to continue with the training. Without hesitation, Yoon Seol accepts, because he doesn't mind losing a few damn arms, as he is willing to sacrifice his soul in order to get his revenge. A month after this, Yoon Seal was able to learn the unparalleled techniques of lightning and thunder before finally getting the chance to leave the intermediate chamber. Although Chien told Yoon Seal that he was quite fast, Yoon Seal still thinks that he took too long to learn the techniques. Since you have learned such techniques, it is finally time for you to proceed to the advanced level. The moment he opens the door of the advanced chamber, everyone stares at him. And Yoon Seal feels a different ferocity in the apprentices, which is understandable since they have seen what he can do. Yoon Seal can't believe that people look down on the job of being an undertaker, while killing someone is held in high esteem. The instructor urges Asila to come in and take a seat because the lesson is about to start. Because they have a new apprentice among them, the instructor reveals that he is going to explain the core reading of the Sword of Rain, as well as the 7 teachings. He begins by telling them that they must know how to balance the power in each part of their body, in order to have an unshakable posture. After a minute of reading the note in front of him, Yoon Seal realizes that he wouldn't have understood shit if he hadn't learned the advanced martial arts of the intermediate chamber. After the instructor finishes with the verbal teachings for the day, he tells Asila to follow him. The instructor then leads Asila into the garden at the back of the camera. He mentions that there are situations in which an armed enemy can be defeated without a sword. In this situation, he says that such a person no longer needs the sword to form sword arts. The instructor takes out a plant branch and points it directly at Ensio. Before asking him an important question, he asks him how he is going to respond if he is suddenly attacked and does not have a sword in his hands. The instructor reveals that while he was busy in the middle chamber, his companions have learned the resplendent mystic, which is the first form of the fire rain sword, which is why they are currently discussing the theory. The instructor lets Asila know that he has no hope of learning anything from him if he cannot understand what he is asking. Since his training career depends on it, the instructor urges Yoon Seal to respond carefully. Yoon Seal then takes a deep breath before replying that if he is missing a sword, he will simply use his opponent's sword. Without wasting time, try to snatch the branch of the plant from the instructor. But before his hand can even reach one of the leaves, the instructor vanishes and appears behind him. The instructor scolds Yoon Seal, telling him that his response is too hasty. Yoon Seal, on the other hand, isn't worried about what the instructor just said, because he's busy wondering when the instructor got behind him. Yoon Seal tries to go after the instructor again, but the result is still the same. Yoon Seal soon finds himself frustrated because he can't predict where the instructor will move to. Yoon Seal didn't expect to catch him easily, but at the same time, he couldn't believe that he couldn't even follow his movements at all. Yoon Seal is worried now because he knows he has no chance. In the advanced camera, if you fail to impress the instructor at that very moment, Yoon Seal then comes to the conclusion of using the wild beast path to its fullest potential, if only once. With his mind set on this, he jumps towards the branch of the plant. But just as he is about to play, he is sent flying backwards by the instructor. Yoon Seal crashes to the ground, looking totally disappointed. But before he can start gloating at his failure, the instructor runs up to him and slaps him on the shoulder. The instructor laughs out loud before telling him that he has passed the test. Yoon Seal is shocked to hear this because he couldn't even touch the old man, which leaves him confused about how he actually passed the test. The instructor ignores her question and tells her that he is going to learn the technique of resplendent mysticism, starting the next day. She urges him to come early, even earlier than his peers. Asila is pleased to hear this and thanks the instructor for his grace before finally saying goodbye. As he walks away, the instructor looks at the branch of the plant in his hand, and a bunch of leaves fall off. Unbeknownst to Asila, he was actually able to reach the solution. Oh yes, but the instructor was wise enough to send him flying, to make it look like he had failed. The instructor is extremely impressed, and admits that he expects great things from Asila. Later, Yoon Seal is walking in the forest, when he starts thinking about circulating his chi instead of resting. Since a fight could break out at any moment, suddenly, he notices multiple presences behind him, and thanks to his wild senses, he is able to figure out how many are out there. 5 guys soon appear behind, and they all look pissed off. They tell Asila that she has been acting with him. With pomposity from the middle chamber, and that they are there to give him a good lesson. The 5 boast that they are called the 5 summit swords because they are geniuses, and they are there to kill him. Instead of getting into baseless arguments with the 5, Yoon Seal keeps his sharp senses activated. And with this, he is able to discover that there is one more person lurking in the shadows. Just as the 5 are about to make their move, a scary guy appears behind and knocks out the ringleader. He falls to the ground in one fell swoop, and this strikes fear into the spines of others. They turn around to see the attacker, who turns out to be a strong trainee known as Seo Jin. Jin ignores the other 4 and turns to Ashiel, telling him that they need to talk. The 4 of them manage to get his attention by asking him what he's doing there, and Seo Jina tells them to fuck off, because it has nothing to do with them. The 4 of them pick up their last companion and run out of there while promising to take revenge on Ashiel. No doubt, Yoon Seal could clearly see that Gina is quite strong. Once Jin confirms that the 4 of them have left, he turns to Yoon Seal to ask him a seemingly important question. He points his sword at her and asks her who she is, and the question leaves Yoon Seal confused. Earlier that day in class, the instructor had called Yoon Seal to test his technique. Yoon Seal grabbed his sword and took a deep breath before he started to wield it accurately. After brandishing it for a couple of minutes, it finally stopped. And the after effects of his movement are clear cuts on the ground. Even the instructor is impressed because Asila has somehow imbued the technique with murderous intent. After he finishes showing his dexterity, the instructor calls the next apprentice, who turns out to be Seo Jina. As he goes on stage, he walks past Yoon Seal and looks absolutely menacing. When the time comes for Haina to show the first technique of the Rain of Fire sword, she changes it and shows a technique that is a perfect counterattack to what Yoon Seal just showed. Yoon Seal had seen this as a clear warning. Now that she is face to face with Gina, Jun Seal asks her what she meant by who he is. Gina yells at Jun Seal, believing he's just playing dumb with the question. Gina reveals that she is well aware that not everyone is on the island because they want to become one of the 10 demon masters. The moment Yoon Seal hears this, reality starts to fall on him. He realizes that the opportunity to learn the 10 demonic arts is quite amazing, but everything was rushed and seemed to be poorly executed. Then he realizes that the opportunity has 2 purposes, and one of them is a trap to catch something. With a calm and genuine voice, Yoon Seal asks Jin if there is a spy on the island. From the way he asked the question, Jin could see that Yoon Seal wasn't lying. Jin then sheathes his sword, saying that Yoon Seal is not the person he is looking for. Before leaving, Jin tells Yoon Seal to stop crossing the line, because if he keeps bothering him, he might kill him. After Jin leaves, Yoon Seal realizes that there are a lot more things going on under the surface than he thought. Yoon Seal realizes that it's normal that he missed some things because he's been focused only in training. Yoon Seal decides to put any distracting thoughts out of his mind, because no matter who he is, he will end up fighting them in the end. Not long after this, the instructor tells the trainees that they have reached the end of their training. After giving them a farewell speech that also counts as a motivational speech, he wishes them luck in their adventure on the Murin. Suddenly, the bell rings, and while the trainees are wondering what is going on, the instructor tells them to head to the Stone Mountain. That is located in the center of the island. Moments later, the trainees gather at the Stone Mountain, where the head instructor is present. The moment he realizes that everyone is present and counted, the head instructor tells the trainees that it is finally time for them to start the 3rd test. Most of the trainees are confused when they hear the chief instructor talking about the 3rd test, because everyone expected him to say the 2nd test. The only person who really knows what's going on is Enshil. Jingyik then informs the apprentices that all the lodgings will be closed very soon, and they will not be able to return to the chambers until they have chosen the 10 demonic masters. He urges them to grab whatever they need inside the caves before they close. One of the trainees then asks how the 10 demon masters will be selected, and the head instructor expresses his disappointment that they have been on the island for quite some time and still haven't figured out the game in question. The head instructor then explains it clearly, telling the trainees that they are expected to kill each other. Yuk says they should kill each other until there are only 10 left. Yuk says that whatever method they employ is up to them. They are even free to run or hide, but it lets them know that this has a disadvantage. Apparently, as time goes by, they are going to restrict the areas where the apprentices can stay. And those who are caught in the restricted areas will be killed by the murderous demons that are behind him. The killer demons are a bunch of scary guys in capes, and just looking at them will make one pee one's pants. Even a seal starts sweating, because he can sense the murderous intent of the murderous demons from where he is standing, which is a clear indication that they are amazing martial artists. Just then, one of the trainees asks Yuk if they are allowed to attack the killer demons. Yuk laughs out loud when he hears this and expresses how impressed he is that there are candidates who aim higher than others. Yuk then tells them that they are free to fight the killer demons and are even free to kill. He reveals that any of the candidates who is able to eliminate a killer demon will immediately become one of the 10 demon masters, thus enlivening the entire game. The moment he says this, the trainees realize that eliminating a killer demon seems to be even more difficult to face to a group of apprentices. Yuk then reminds the apprentices that they are free to form teams or even ambush each other, as there is no frowned upon method, as long as it helps them become one of the 10 demon masters. After they are dismissed and get everything they need from the caves, the apprentices make their moves, and the CEO wastes no time in distancing himself from the rest because he is well aware that he has already drawn attention to himself during his training. He realizes that they are going to attack him in a group, just like the so-called Summit 5 wanted to attack him in the forest. He knows that his priority is to get to a safe place, and his best option is the Wandering Pavilion. When you get there, you notice that the floor feels quite different from how you remembered it. He kneels down to feel the changes on the ground, and while doing so, he feels someone approaching in his direction. Just then, a guy who is being chased by other trainees appears in the bushes, urging Asila to help him because they are trying to kill him. Asila grabs his sword, ready to attack in case it's a trap. The guy assures Yoon Seal that he will pay it back if he helps him escape from the guys who are chasing him. Yoon Seal evaluates the situation and realizes that the guy might be telling the truth because the wounds on his body seem real. Yoon Seal can sense the 3 people chasing him and wonders if they are a team or not. Even though Yoon Seal isn't interested in whatever they're doing, he can't risk exposing himself because of the guy they're after. Realizing that he has no other choice, Yoon Seal is forced to hide himself and the guy in one of the hidden underground hideouts located around the pavilion. The trio chasing the guy soon shows up, but they don't find anyone, leaving them totally confused. They walk around the pavilion trying to find their target, but unbeknownst to them, he is right below them. After searching the area and realizing that their target is not there, the trio has no choice but to leave to continue their search. Once Asil confirms that the assailants are leaving, he and his conditional partner finally come out of hiding. The guy is grateful that he survived everything and thanks Yoon Seal for his help. While he is busy thanking Yoon Seal for his help, Yoon Seal is busy assessing the situation. Yoon Seal realizes that Sagwa must have prepared a new set of holes to help him hide. While hiding, he could feel the sensations of the wild beast's path expanding, reaching further than normal. Basically, I could feel everything inside the earth as if I was seeing it. He realizes that Sagwa must have wanted to teach him the way that vibration uses. His conditional partner eventually introduces himself as Jun Chul Jun and is from the Blood Sect. Jun asks for Yoon Seal's name, but he just ignores it. Yoon Seal is not ready to sit down and starts heading to his next location. Jun urges him to stop and asks if he can join him just to be safer. Jun says that he sees Yoon Seal as a trustworthy person since she helped him escape before. Yoon Seal remains silent, and Jun decides to take his silence as a yes, with emotion written all over his face. He runs after Yoon Seal as if he were a lost puppy, eventually becoming his companion. After walking for a couple of minutes, Yoon Seal puts his hand on the ground to feel the vibrations of the earth. With the help of this, he can realize that there is a quarrel later on and suggests that they take a different way to avoid the battle. Jun is impressed to see what Yoon Seal can do and urges him to teach him how to do it. But our protagonist just ignores him and keeps walking. Suddenly, Yoon Seal hears one of the fighters talking about how determined he is to avenge his fallen comrades. The moment Yoon Seal hears this, a familiar feeling runs through his entire body. He realizes that the guy is also pursuing the feeling of revenge, just like him. June notices the sudden change in Yoon Seal and asks him what's going on. But before he can continue talking, Yoon Seal lets him know that they are going to take a detour. It turns out that Asil does not want to avoid the fight again, but wants to actively participate in it. As they approach the battle area, an apprentice is perfectly hidden in the branch of a tree, and the moment he realizes it, he makes his move. However, Yoon Seal easily blocks his attack, surprising the guy who thought he had the advantage. He frantically asks Yoon Seal how he was able to stop the forbidden ultimate concealment technique if he is not a murderer. Yoon Seal ignores his question and responds with a deadly cut that splits him in two. Yoon Seal admits that the assassin's technique would have been a bummer if he hadn't learned the path of the wild beast. Since the fight is still going on, Yoon Seal thinks about helping the trapped guy get rid of the killers, so he can tell him how it feels to consummate revenge. Just as they are about to finish him off, a shield appears out of nowhere and attacks them. The sudden attack surprises them, giving a shield the upper hand as he launches his devastating slashes. However, one of the assassins appears right behind Asil and almost cuts off his head, but Asil dodges the blow. Before he knows it, Yoon Seal is surrounded, but they pose no threat to his ferocity. He is able to finish them off, leaving only one guy. As he prepares to confront the guy, the trapped man thirsting for revenge emerges from behind to kill the last killer. Having finished with the last killer, he lets out a huge smile for having been able to consummate his revenge. Suddenly, he collapses on the ground before Yoon Seal can ask him anything. June comes out of the bush where he is hiding, asking if the fight is over. Yoon Seal ignores him and leans next to the guy to check on him. That's when June finally shows his true intentions by trying to stab Yoon Seal in the back. However, Yoon Seal is not one to be easily fooled, as he blocks the attack before it reaches him. June is stunned when Yoon Seal blocks the attack, as he didn't expect it. Yoon Seal pushes him back, while blaming him for depriving him of the opportunity to ask the question that was eating at him. Young is not worried about the question Azul has, but is more worried about how Yoon Seal could find out that he was going to betray him. Yoon Seal then reveals that he already knew this from the beginning. While they were in the underground shelter, Yoon Seal had seen that Young was hiding a bunch of weapons hidden under his clothes. In addition, he could not move properly because his body was stiff due to the weapons he was carrying. Yoon Seal confesses that she only kept Bon around out of curiosity. He wanted to know if the art of deception would help him in the future. Gilaum hears this and loses his mind, believing that Asil is talking nonsense because he considers his acting to be perfect. He throws his weapons at Asil, but he blocks them all quite easily, complicating Gam's life. Fear begins to run through his body as he realizes that Asil might be able to predict his movements. Before he knows it, Unseo's speed gives him the upper hand, and he catches up to Gum in an instant, making a cut on his shoulder. Unseo tells Gim that he will be able to have the best hidden weapons, but that they are basically useless, and he can't hide them well. Refusing to give up, Jin makes one last desperate attempt to take down Asil with everything he has. Jin pounces on Asil, but Asil shows him how superior he is by easily going through it and knocking it down. After Jin dies, Asil admits that the fight was hard for him, and that he would have run into trouble if he hadn't known about the hidden weapons. He turns around to look at June's face, and he has the same empty look of death as most of the dying. On the other hand, the revenge guy has a calm and satisfied face in death, and Yoon Seal wonders if he will have the same kind of face as when he finally gets his revenge. Before leaving the scene, Yoon Seal picks up the guy's sword, which now gives him the opportunity to wield two swords. Meanwhile, there is an unknown entity hiding in the bushes, and they are watching Yoon Seal's every move. They've seen the way he fights and how dangerous he is. The stranger admits that Asil is talented, but believes that he still has to improve his skills, or else he will not survive on the island. The next day, Yoon Seal finds himself pursued by a group of apprentices who want him out at all costs. Yoon Seal has suffered several cuts on his body, but he keeps running, because he sees that the assailants have no intention of backing down. While trying to take the lead, he also tries to think about how to escape from his current situation. And meanwhile, the chief instructor and Jingak watch from the top of a mountain. The head instructor asks for a report, and Jingak tells him that out of the 86 trainees, there are still 41 alive. The chief instructor is satisfied that there are still 41 trainees left after 3 days, and concludes that the remaining ones are skilled. Then he decides it's time to put his skills to the test. Meanwhile, Ensio swings his daggers, and just as his assailants are about to approach, he throws them back to knock one of them down, and give himself another fighting chance. Ashiel quickly realizes that he has no chance if he continues to fight in the open field. It is at this moment that he decides to change the terrain of the fight to one where he has some chance. Ashiel runs straight towards the Rain of Fire sect building, but unbeknownst to him, the chief instructor has decided that that place is the next one he wants to restrict. Yoon Seal arrives safely at the building, and leaves a trail of blood for his assailants to follow. They track him down to a small space, and think they have cornered him, until Ashiel appears behind them. He almost takes the nearest guy's head off, but he manages to block him, while alerting his friends that Ashiel is behind them. The guy arrogantly tells Ashiel that they are not fools, and that they would not fall for such cheap tricks. A fierce battle breaks out between the two, but Yoon Seal is able to read the trajectories of his sword, which gives him the opportunity to easily dodge the enemy's attacks. The moment he dodges the guy's attack, Yoon Seal gets the golden opportunity to counterattack and takes it. He wields his sword with such force that it slices the head off his opponent's neck. The rest of the group becomes enraged and tries to attack Yoon Seal all at once, but they soon realize that the small space limits their attack capabilities. Yoon Seal, on the other hand, has no problem, as she does very well in such confined spaces. Yoon Seal takes the lead, making life difficult for his assailants. After assessing the situation, Yoon Seal realizes that he has a chance to finish them all and confronts them one by one. Realizing that Yoon Seal will take them out one by one if they let him, one of the assailants frantically throws his whip, forcing it to bounce off the wall. The whip almost catches Yoon Seal, but he manages to jump out of the firing line at the last minute. Realizing that they have taken Yoon Seal out of the confined space, the rest of the raiders try to get out, but they run into a brick wall. That turns out to be the leader of the team. He looks absolutely furious that the group is trying to run away from a fight. The group tries to defend themselves, saying that they are not running away, but trying to reposition themselves. The captain ignores their excuses, and with a single blow of his gun, cuts off their heads, leaving blood splattered everywhere. He talks arrogantly about how rubbish his team was, which is why he didn't want to join them in the first place. Now that he has taken care of the flies, Yoon Seal finds himself facing the captain of the team. He admits that Ashiel is skilled, and then introduces himself as Woo Mon-chien. He asks Yoon Seal what his name is, but Yoon Seal is more concerned about Woo's status. He wants to know if he is the team leader, and this angers Woo. He concludes that there is no need to exchange names, as Yoon Seal is about to die at his hands. Woo brandishes his whip at Yoon Seal to grab his sword, and before Yoon Seal can react, his weapon shatters in his hand. Woo begins to taunt Yoon Seal, saying that the Rain of Fire sect only taught him one defense technique. That's when Yoon Seal finally realizes that the guy knows everything about his glowing mystique technique. But the question of how he knows it still stands. Yoon Seal wonders if Gu has some kind of information network that he doesn't know about. Gu realizes that Yoon Seal is absorbed in his thoughts and goes after him. Yoon Seal barely dodges Woo's attack, but watches as Woo destroys everything his weapon touches. Yoon Seal realizes that fighting Woo in an enclosed space is basically useless, so he decides to run towards the main hall. Yoon Seal arms himself with his second sword and prepares to confront Woo, but another blow from Woo pushes him back. Gu emerges from the dark space, talking about how disappointed he is that Yoon Seal is not giving him enough fight. He throws his whip at Yoon Seal, and before he knows it, he finds himself trapped by the whip. Gu teases Yoon Seal, telling him that it's almost over for him. Yoon Seal realizes that he can block Woo's attacks using the Resplendent Mystic. But the problem is that he doesn't have the power to project enough strength to stop him. That's when he realizes that a totally different technique is needed, one that is a destructive force strong enough to cut through steel. The moment the whip surrounds Jun's seal, Wu thinks he has finished the job, but suddenly realizes that Jun's seal is up to something. Still, he's not worried as he thinks Jun's seal is trying to use the glowing mystic. His relaxed face transforms into a horrified face when Jun's seal bursts through the trapped space with a powerful force, accompanied by a golden aura. It turns out that he just used the peerless lightning and thunder technique that Xian taught him. Before Gu can react, Jun's Xian has caught up with him, thanks to the strength with which he advances. In the blink of an eye, Jun's seal runs through him, dealing him a deadly cut on his body, which he only felt after Jun's seal had finished. Suddenly, his bodily functions cease, and Gu collapses dead on the floor. After Gu's death, Jun's seal finally feels the effect of the skill he just used, causing him to cough up blood. Although the skill is quite powerful and reliable, Jun's seal realizes that he cannot use it freely, because it is too advanced for his level. However, he is glad that he won the fight, even if it took up his time. He realizes that the restricted regions will change soon, and that he needs to move quickly. Suddenly, he feels a sinister aura behind him, and when he turns around, he sees a murderous demon, staring at him with all its monstrosity. Fear runs through Jun's seal's body, as he doesn't want to believe what his eyes see. He starts to realize that the restricted zones must have changed, while he was busy fighting the group he just defeated. However, he begins to wonder if he has a chance to leave without a fight, since he did not end up in the restricted zone for running away from the combat. He moves his foot slightly while watching the killer demon, and when he doesn't react, Jun's seal thinks he's safe. He assumes that the murderous demon is giving him a free pass, and quickly takes advantage of it. He runs past the killer demon, but just as he's about to overtake him, his wild beast senses kick in, and he sees his head flying off his body. Jun's seal barely changes his trajectory to avoid being beheaded. He almost pees in his pants when he realizes that he couldn't even feel when the killer demon moved. And if it wasn't for his wild beast senses, he would have been dead meat. Jun's seal finally comes to the conclusion that he can't be fooled by the killer demon's calm face, because the moment he makes a move, he will attack him. Jun's seal then remembers what Sagwa told him about carnivores and herbivores. He had learned that predators have a hard time catching their prey when it moves in a zigzag pattern. However, the carnivore still comes out victorious, and this is because the movement of the prey becomes predictable at some point, giving the predator the opportunity to intercept and kill its prey. As predictability is the problem, Jun's seal lets out a loud scream before deciding to start moving in the strangest way, to make sure his movements can't be predicted. Jun's seal puts his plan into action, and his first move manages to evade the killer demon, impressing the guy. Jun's seal starts with a predictable zigzag movement, and the moment the killer demon realizes this, Jun's seal starts dodging his attacks with the wild beast path. Just as he is about to make his final move, he realizes that the killer demon has caught up with him and has his sword at his neck. Sweat ran down his face as he realized it was too late. However, he is shocked when the killer demon suddenly stops, instead of executing him on the spot. Jun's seal looks around and realizes that he has already crossed the restricted area. Jun's seal takes a moment to think about what just happened and realizes that he couldn't create a single opening, even though he gave everything. Jun's seal turns around to leave and finally understands what it means to be a martial artist. He realized that he was just a frog in a well and that he had no chance. After reaching a safe distance, Jun's soul takes a moment to think about the whole situation again, and realizes that the killer demon actually has abilities that can match those of his grandfather's killer. Jun's seal realizes that he has to be able to overcome the abilities of a killer demon if he wants to have a chance. Suddenly, he hears a voice behind him, telling him that she has been looking for him. He turns around to see a guy sitting on a rock looking at him, and talking about the wild beast trail that Jun's seal learned. Jun's seal hears this and realizes that a lot of information has been spread about him. The guy initially plans to introduce himself, but changes his mind, saying that Jun's seal is about to die, so he doesn't have to know his name. The guy charges at Jun's seal, but Yoon's seal remains calm as he moves easily to dodge the guy's attack. The guy is impressed that Yoon's seal actually dodged his attack with his beast senses. The guy admits that Yoon's seal is on his way to becoming one of the demon masters in the future, so he absolutely has to kill him. The guy changes the trajectory of his attack, and by the way he talks, something important finally crosses Jun's mind. However, he quickly filters out of his mind all distracting thoughts before they kill him. It blocks the guy's attack, but the reverberation of the sword sends a peculiar feeling through Yoon's seal's body. After a few more moves, and Shield finally confirms his suspicion. He remembers that he and his grandfather once tended to a corpse, and his grandfather tells him that the guy died at the hands of the 5 tiger cutting swords of the Eve and Fang clan. His grandfather knew about it because there was no external wound on the guy, but all his bones were shattered. Yoon Seal's grandfather explains that the 5 tiger cutting swords specialize in making him and the opponent flow whenever their weapons are touched. Remembering his grandfather's words, Yoon Seal speaks up to let the guy know that he is aware that he is using the 5 tiger cutting swords technique, which is peculiar to the Abifan clan. The guy is shocked when he hears this and starts asking Yoon Seal how he knows. Apparently, one of the characteristics of the fighting form is the absorption technique, which is one of the basic techniques used by the Kai. It is like a vortex that draws everything towards him, thus using him to interfere with his opponent's weapon. While the opponent's weapon is crooked, they take the opportunity to finish them off completely. Back then, a seal was impressed by how his grandfather explained everything, and asked him if the Abifang clan was the most powerful martial arts sect. His grandfather explained to him that the technique could be dangerous, but at the same time, it would also affect them, as they would get closer to their opponent. Remembering this, a seal decides that he is going to use the technique against the opponent. A seal lunges at Fang's guy, and the guy finally gets ready to take on a seal, using the clan's style. Fang talks about how he plans to uproot all the demon seeds before they have a chance to become a master. Demonic. Just when a shield is about to reach him, he does something by sticking his sword into the ground. Fang thinks that a seal must be crazy, but he soon realizes that he is wrong when a seal dodges his attack and appears next to him. A shield kicks him right in the stomach, causing him pain, and also in pushing him back. Yoon then returns to pick up his sword, while smiling because his plan is clearly working. However, Ancien does not completely trust what he just did, because he could clearly see that it caused little harm. He is not at all worried, as his opponent has been training for a long time, and does not expect to bring him down with cheap tricks. However, now he is glad to know how to counteract it. While remembering the advanced camera instructor's words, the man told him to let the opponent attack first before making his move. In a split second, Fang soon makes his move, and instead of panicking and acting recklessly, Yoon Seal decides to go with the flow of the attack. In hopes of changing the flow at the last second, Yoon Seal does exactly this and narrowly misses hitting Fang in the head. Fang's life passes before his eyes, and it is then that when he realizes that Yoon Seal is using his own technique to his advantage. Fang does not want to believe that this is possible because the energy absorption technique he is using is what? Strong enough to attract a rock from a great distance. Apparently, the technique is so strong that even the swordsmen experts find it difficult to counter it, so Fang doesn't want to believe that someone as young as a shield has what it takes to counter it. Fang then tries another attack, and this time it makes the absorption stronger, but unbeknownst to him, it's only going to make a shield's sword faster. Yoon Seal takes the lead, and just as he is about to cut Fang, Fang dodges the blow because he was already expecting it. It takes Yoon Seal by surprise, as he refrained from using the energy absorption technique. He arrogantly tells Yoon Seal that he doesn't need to use the energy absorption technique, energy to kill someone like him. Fang throws himself into a shield, completely ignoring his absorption technique, but this is what a shield has been waiting for. The moment Fang approaches him, a seal uses the first technique of the Fire Rain sword, Mystic Shining, to knock Fang down. Just like a seal's previous opponents, Fang is shocked by the kind of technique a seal has just displayed in front of him. It turns out that a seal changed the glowing mystique from a defensive to an attacking technique. and in order to do this, he had to risk the other moves turning against him. Even Fang is forced to admit that a soul is brilliant for having changed the way the attack works. Yoon Seal starts to walk away, and Fang is surprised that a seal let him live. Yoon Seo tells Fang that he is not part of her revenge, so she has no reason to kill him. Fang is relieved to hear this and suggests that they never meet again. Just as Seo leaves, a strange figure appears behind Fang, who turns out to be a murderous demon. Fang asks the demon killer if he is there to eliminate him, and the demon killer lets him know that he was useful to the Orthodox sect while he could. Fang is surprised that the demon slayer knows that he is from the Orthodox sect, and the demon slayer mocks, telling Fang that he is seriously underestimating the demon palace. With this, the demon slayer raises his sword and executes Fang. Meanwhile, Seo Jin is confronted by a group of apprentices who are from the infernal sect. While he was fighting them, they have managed to poison him. And because of this, he has lost 95% of his fighting spirit. His enemies let him know that he is just a dead man walking, unless he can get the antidote from them, which they obviously won't give him. Seo Jin finally realizes that being alone might not have been the best option because the group he is facing is too organized. Instead of surrendering, Seo Jin grabs her sword with her left hand, ready to defend herself. One of the assailants taunts Jin, admitting that he may be strong and talented, but there is no way he will quickly adapt to using his left hand, as he is a right-handed warrior. They suggest that he surrender, while pouncing on him, with the intention of finishing him off. Jin tries to stand his ground, but to top it off, he gets hit with another poisonous needle. With this, Jin knows that he's going to die in 10 minutes if he doesn't get the antidote for the poison. Realizing that there is no need to fight anymore, Jin finally puts down his sword, expecting to be slaughtered by the approaching assailants. Suddenly, one of them drops dead before they can reach Jin, and that's when they realize that there is someone else in the area. They are still trying to understand the situation when a shield appears behind them, looking menacing and dangerous. The quick and surprise attack of a seal helps him to shoot down the assailants with precision. Before long, Yoon Seal is the only one left standing amid the number of corpses lying in the field. Fear takes over Seo Jin when he sees Yoon Seal walking towards him and tries to convince him to let him live, because she is not a threat to him. Yoon Seal simply ignores him and approaches one of the bodies on the ground to register it. It turns out that a Sion is worried about the antidote, and the moment he sees it, he feels relieved because he knows that it will help him fight the apprentices of the Infernal Blood Castle. Just as he is about to leave, Seo Jin stops him, telling him that he has been poisoned, and that he has less than 10 minutes to use the antidote. Yoon Seal turns around and, in a cold voice, lets her know that his goal is to kill everyone, and Seo Jin is no exception. Yoon Seal lets him know that the only reason she's not killing him is because he's already a dead man. Seo Jin realizes that a seal is right, because in the end, he is just a competitor who needs to be eliminated. Desperate, Jin tells a seal that he is willing to collaborate with him if he gives her the antidote. A seal asks him why he should help him, and in his defense, Jin reminds Unzul that there are about 20 apprentices left. He explains that all these trainees are in groups, and no matter how strong a soul is, he doesn't stand a chance against them alone. Jin promises to tell a soul about the weaknesses of the remaining group if he helps him. In addition, Jin promises Yoon Seal that he will never betray him if he saves his life. After thinking about it for a moment, Yoon Seal comes to the conclusion that Seo Jin is not the kind of person who cheats or betrays someone. Jin also assures Yoon Seal that he will work with him until the end, reiterating that he will not betray him. Yoon Seal finally agrees to help, and throws the antidote container to Jin so he can help. Jin does not waste time, and pours the powder on the affected part. And while doing this, the bell of another restricted area rings. The moment An Seo hears this, he tells Jin that they must leave immediately. Jin is surprised because they are still in the safe zone, but An Seo yells at her to use the bell. Head reminds him that most of the battle area has already been restricted. And since another restriction has just happened, and they are in the safe zone, this can only mean one thing. This basically means that the rest of the group will soon converge on their position. Before I can finish saying this, the other groups appear surrounding Jin and Yoon Seal. Undoubtedly, Yoon Seal realizes that it is already too late, and while evaluating the group that has just arrived, he realizes that there is one guy among them who seems to be different from the rest. The guy has a red scarf tied in his hair and a cold attitude. As the group is made up of different factions, one of them wastes no time in suggesting that they kill June Seal and Jin first, before deciding what to do between them. It turns out that everyone in the group knows Jin and June Seal and the kind of skills they possess. Realizing that they are in a very difficult situation, Gina takes the bottle of the antidote that June Seal gave her earlier. In an act of ingenuity, he throws the powder at the group, claiming that it is poison from the infernal blood castle. The dust leaves a purple cloud that covers the entire area and causes the group members to cover their mouths in fear. While the group tries to deal with what they think is poison, June Seal and Jin take the opportunity to flee. Suddenly, one of the members of the group realizes that they have been deceived and alerts the rest, telling them that the powder is not poison. Jin, on the other hand, is glad that the dust has created what appears to be a curtain of smoke. Meanwhile, June Seal is already thinking about the next thing to do, and realizes that a large area will not favor them. Think about looking for a cave where they will be in a better condition to fight, and as if they are synchronized, Gina can see what she is thinking. June Seal then tells Jin, let him follow him because he knows a cave that they can use. He is apparently talking about his old quarters that provide the best place for them to fight. Jin is shocked to realize that One Shield already has everything planned out. June Seal and Jin continue their advance towards the cave area, but everything goes wrong. Wrong when they see a cloud of smoke covering the area, signaling that the cave area has fallen into a restricted section. The killer demons have the whole place surrounded, leaving them no room to escape, and a CEO realizes that the superiors are watching and intentionally chose the area as a restricted zone. Gita just to see what would happen. Jin starts to panic and asks June Seal what they are supposed to do. June Seal lets her know that the killer demons won't attack them as long as they don't cross the fog. Since they have no choice but to fight, June Seal believes that having the killer demons on their backs might not be a bad choice. Realizing they have no choice, the two prepare for the battle of their lives. The group chasing them finally shows up, and they are furious about the fact that June Seal and his partner are stressing them out. Without further delay, they pounce on the two, aiming to kill them as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the chief instructor is watching from above, and believes that the battle that is about to begin will be the decisive battle for the 10 demonic masters. The daggers fly towards Ansel, but he dodges everything easily before going after the guy throwing them. Kill the guy. And while he's doing this, Jin also shows the attackers why he's not on their level. Suddenly, a long-range weapon flies towards Jin, forcing him to take a step back. The intensity of the long-range weapon forces Jin and June Seal to stand back to back again, allowing their assailants to surround them. Seeing how the situation has turned out, June Seal realizes that he is on the verge of death, and subtly says that he does not regret anything, since he has put everything of himself into everything he has done so far. The moment June Seal hears this, he realizes that he and Gina are at home. Completely different paths, because if he dies at that moment, he will be filled with regret, that he will not be able to avenge his grandfather. The reality that this could happen hits him very hard, and he loses all sense of fear and immediately concentrates. Angel changes from being the prey to being the hunter, and the first two who run towards him have no idea that he hit them. He knocks them down so fast that he's already going for his next target before Gina realizes that Anseal is no longer behind him. Unzu's technique changes him as he cuts his opponents as if they were paper. The other apprentices start to panic because they have never seen the kind of technique Azul is using. Realizing how dangerous Azul is, the target immediately switches to him. They focus all their attention on him, but at this point, all of June Seal's senses are at their maximum, especially his wild beast senses. He remembers every move Sagwa made, and at that moment he starts moving erratically. All the trainees can see are bodies flying left and right as they seem unable to follow the movements of a shield. Even the head instructor is surprised by what he is seeing, as he cannot believe. Let an apprentice move like a professional. June Seal is dealing out punches left and right, until an unexpected punch comes out of nowhere, and June Seal only notices it at the last moment. He is able to block the blow with his sword, but lack of preparation causes the punch to shatter his sword before throwing it at a distance. Jin gets scared when he sees where Jun Seal landed and yells at him to get up. Jun Seal is a little disoriented from the blow, and by the time he regains his senses, he finds himself in the fog. His mouth opens in surprise and dismay, and when he looks up, he sees a murderous demon staring, ready to behead him. To everyone's surprise, the chief instructor shouts an order at the last minute. The murderous demon is about to grab a shield when Sabo appears behind him and puts a sword to his neck to let him know that a shield is safe. Yoon Seon looks into his master's eyes, and this is the last thing he sees before he passes out. The chief instructor screams at the top of his lungs, demanding that the chief doctor be brought in to prevent Yoon Seon from dying. Jin Gak tries to tell the chief instructor that it is wrong to stop the test suddenly, but the chief instructor assures Jin Gak that he will take full responsibility. Deep down, the chief instructor is rejoicing that he has finally found the jewel he was looking for. The chief instructor is confident that a shield will become one of the 10 demonic masters. Later, one of the elders, J.W.M. Young, asked the chief instructor why he interrupted the plan, which was initially to select 10 demon masters and 2 geniuses who would serve as his eyes and ears. Apparently, his plan was to select 12 apprentices, but Anshul finished the test with 14, even knowing that he would be punished for it. The chief instructor lets Agua know that he is fully prepared for any consequences that his decision entails. Agua worries about how the emissaries of the 10 demonic sects will take the news, but the chief instructor assures Agua that the 10 executives will also see what he saw in Junseer. Sometime later, Jun Seal wakes up in a strange room, with the smell of medicine everywhere. He immediately realizes that he is in the room where his wounds were treated. He evaluates his body, and realizes that his wounds are perfectly healed, and this includes all his internal injuries. He is totally blown away by this because he didn't expect the Demon Palace doctor to be so impressive. Once he regains his strength, he stands up and goes to the hallway, where he meets an assistant, who asks him to accompany him. He leads Yoon Sale to the main hall, and Yoon Sale is totally amazed by the amazing surroundings of the building. He asks the guy where they are, and he informs him that they are currently in the center of Hell Island. Yoon Seal realizes that he hadn't seen the building before because he was in the restricted area. Once a seal settles in, the attendant asks if he would like to order something, and the seal orders 2 bowls of noodles. Moments later, the noodles arrived, and the reason he ordered noodles was that he had always enjoyed noodles with his grandfather. Just as he is about to start eating, Jin appears, joking about the 2 bowls of noodles in his presence. Unwilling to be friends, Yoon Seal asks Jin what he wants, and Jin takes a moment before thanking Yoon Seal for saving his life. So Jin admits that he would have died if it wasn't for Yoon Seal saving his life. Yoon Seal doesn't want to take the credit for this, but Jin explains to him that there were supposed to be 12 surviving apprentices. However, the chief instructor's decision to suddenly save him is the reason why Jin is also alive. Ashil is shocked to hear this, and is even more shocked when he hears that he has been unconscious for 4 days. Ashil thought that he had only been unconscious for 1 day, and Gina let him know that he was very lucky that the doctor known as the Crazy Doctor was nearby. Speaking of the Crazy Doctor, he is considered the best doctor, but after failing to cure his lover's illness, he became mentally unstable. Basically, he is considered a miracle worker who can save anyone as long as he keeps breathing. Yoon Sewell is honored by the fact that he was saved by said doctor. Without asking, Jin decides to start eating Yoon Sewell's noodles while sharing more information. He mentions that the killer demons are actually martial masters sent by the 10 demonic sects. Apparently, the sects will also come to choose their successors. Asil asks Jin if he has any idea why he was saved by the chief instructor. Jin replies that he was about to ask the same question, because the head instructor was very anxious that Asil be one of the 10 demonic masters. Jin believes that Asil knew the chief instructor from before, or that his sect has something to do with it, and Seal clarifies things, saying that he did not know the chief instructor from before. When Asil learns that the chief instructor is being harshly punished for what happened, he begins to wonder why a man he did not know intervened to save him, and even risked being punished for it. Just at that moment, a loud sound draws everyone's attention to the fact that the executives of the 10 demonic sects have arrived. The trainees immediately gather and watch as the executives, who exude an imposing aura, enter the room. Without wasting any time, the vice master of the necromancer sect, Bolsa, makes his move. He points to a guy named Jang Moon who asks him to join the necromancer sect. Jang is skeptical because he has always trained with a sword and has never wielded a spear before. Bolsa lets him know that it doesn't matter, as he was born with a physique suitable for the necromancy spear. Bolsa points out that Yang was unable to reach his full potential while using the sword, and that the spear would be the best choice for him. With these words echoing in his head, Yang quickly follows Bolsa. When Bolsa finishes, another old man, Hawk Jae-han, steps forward. He is the vice master of the Infernal Blood Castle. Surprisingly, Hawk calls Gina to join the Infernal sect, which surprises the boy. Gina can't believe that Jackie Han is seriously calling him, known as the Sword Genie since childhood, to join the Infernal Blood Castle. That creates poison artists. Hawk explains that the scariest poison in the world is a poisonous heart. Apparently, before the third trial started, Jin had used a girl from the Hell Castle Marshal Office to kill all the apprentices. And after failing, he ended her life to make sure she kept silent forever. Gina immediately intervenes to defend herself, saying that the girl offered herself first. However, Hawk lets Gina know that he is not trying to blame him at all, because he appreciates the fact that Gina is willing to kill many people to achieve her goals. Hawk lets Gina know that she can't succeed at the Murin if she thinks fencing is her way. Hawk manages to convince Gina that his talent lies in poison and not in fencing. After seeing how Anshin handled the sword, even though she had just started learning, Gina becomes convinced that she might really have no talent for fencing. Because of this, he decides to go to the Infernal Castle, and Hawk gladly takes him. Just then, the strongest swordsman of the demonic path, Byoken, steps forward to make his choice. Gu is the most respected because he is the strongest, and because of the fact that he comes from the Fire Rain Sword sect. Even Anseal can feel Gu's pressure. And everyone else is on edge, because they're anxious to see who he's going to choose. Gu surprises everyone when he calls Aseel by name, telling him to follow him. Gu says he's heard a lot about Aseel, and because of that, he's excited to see what Aseel can do. Just as Gu turns around to leave, Aseel does the unthinkable by fearlessly saying that he is not interested in joining the Fire Rain Sword sect. Gu is forced to ask again in case he is going deaf. Gu's anger erupts as he cannot believe that Aseel has just rejected a demonic master. The aura of his body immediately puts Yoon Seal on his knees, but Yoon Seal manages to speak, saying that he has the option to refuse offers. Wu then asks him where he plans to go after rejecting his offer, and Yoon Seal calmly says that he would like to go to the Wandering Beast Pavilion. This only angers Gu even more, as the Wandering Beast Pavilion is considered garbage, and he believes that Aseel is trying to make fun of the Fire Rain sect, who continues to crush Yoon Seal with his terrifying aura. And Yoon Seal finally realizes why he is considered the strongest swordsman of the demonic path. Suddenly, Yoon Seal feels a sense of relief, and when he looks up, he sees Sagwa standing between him and the immeasurable pressure emanating from Gu's body. This only angers Gu even more because he can't believe that a simple pavilion master is trying to stand in his way. Gu's aura increases, causing Sagu some discomfort, and he even reaches for his sword. Everyone watching this is scared to death because they can't believe that Sagu is really trying to draw his sword in front of the strongest man of the demonic path. In a stern voice, Gu tells Sagu not to push his limits just because he is close to Jinguk. One of the two masters quickly realizes that all the apprentices would die if Gu. He gets angry and draws his sword. He realizes that it is his job to intervene quickly and make sure that the situation calms down. Just as Wu is about to draw his sword, said two master quickly intervenes to sheathe the sword again, while talking to Wu in the softest way he can. It turns out that the vice master is Dan Kian, and he is from the Wandering Beast sect. He begs Gu to let the matter go for his sake, and the rest of the elders present in the room subtly urge Gu to be patient. Gu takes a moment before finally making his decision, allowing the Wandering Beast sect to take Junsul under their protection. Sagu quickly tells Junseal that it's time to leave before Gu changes his mind again. Deep down, Junseal knows the energy he felt, and he can sense that Wu was going to kill him if he hadn't been stopped. After leaving the demon palace, Sagu praises Junseal, saying that he has improved, and Junseal praises Sagu's teachings. Moments later, they arrive at the Wandering Beast Pavilion, which appears to be a lively village. Junseal is surprised to see this because he expected a quiet and serious atmosphere, but everyone seems cheerful and happy. They notice the surprise on Junseal's face and tells him that they are different from the other sects because they prioritize self-sufficiency. Junseal realizes that he doesn't see young people his age in the area and asks about it. Dan casually reveals that the young disciples they had run away or died due to their intense training. Dan then looks around and sees an old shack. He tells Unseal that he will stay in the hut, and if there is nothing that needs to be repaired, he asks him to get tools from the blacksmith, Wangle. After telling Unseal where he should be, Dan tells Sagwo that it's time for them to leave. Unseal is surprised that Sagwo is leaving, and asks him if he won't stay in the village. Dan then explains that Sagwo is just a secret pavilion master who has no right or power to confront the sword demon. Since he did that to protect Unseal, he's going to be punished for it. Unseal is surprised to hear this, but Sagwo urges him not to worry because it is nothing more than a light punishment. Sogu livens up the atmosphere by patting Unseal on the back, telling him not to mess around while he's away. After Sogu leaves, Dan tells Unseal that he still can't call himself a disciple of the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Dan says that Ashiel might have become one of the 10 demon masters, but this does not mean that he is officially a disciple of the Wandering Beast Pavilion. The reason is that they do not accept weaklings as disciples of the Beast Pavilion. And Seo asks Dan what it takes to be strong, and Dan casually replies that yes. Dan reveals that the sect doesn't have any stressful formalities like the other sects. Dan says the sect doesn't impose a sense of belonging or an oath because all it takes is to learn martial arts and become stronger. By doing this, he will be recognized as a disciple, and Dan lets him know that everyone in the pavilion is his mentors. However, it is still up to the teachers to teach a son what they know or not. The next day, a son begins to climb a very high rock, known as the Iron Peak. Dan had told him the day before to climb the rock because there was someone waiting at the top, who would teach him the best internal energy cultivation techniques. After trying so hard and sweating profusely, Ansio finally reaches the top of the mountain. He is amazed when he sees a man who looks like a monk waiting for him. Only the aura of the bald man is enough to make him recoil, but Ashiel keeps calm. He comes before the man and exposes his matter to him, and the man asks him if he is not satisfied with the cultivation technique he has already learned. Ashiel is confused upon hearing this, and the man reveals that there is real chi emanating from his body. The man says that the chi is so much that it seems that Ashiel has been accumulating it since he was young. Ashiel quickly clarifies things, saying that he has lived as an undertaker all his life and has never learned any cultivation techniques. The moment the bald Saitama hears this, he reveals that there are only 2 possibilities for life. What Junseal just said. Either Junseal is a liar or he learned it in a dream. Desperate to clear his name, Junseal tells the man that he is not lying and that he is free to check it out. The man is curious about this and asks Junseal if he can destroy all of his true Y, to which Junseal says yes. The bald guy takes a look at Seja's body and is surprised to realize that his body is overflowing with true Y. But he is not circulating, which means that he accumulated true Y in his lower dantian without having an energy technique. The bald man does not believe that this phenomenon is possible, and he immediately grabs Junseal and fiercely asks him who taught him to accumulate true, and Junseal is confused by the question, which forces him to ask the bald guy what he meant by that. The guy asks her if anyone has ever taught her to calm her mind or to breathe in the past. Junseal immediately mentions that his grandfather taught him a breathing technique before, and the man asks him to try it in his presence. Junseal gets into position and starts doing the breathing technique, but the bald guy is amazed to see this, because Junseal is doing the standing technique. After he has seen enough, he tells Eonseal to stop and asks him again if it was his grandfather who taught him. Eonseal confirms this, saying that he showed it to her when he used to play dead with it, claiming that it was the best way to breathe in the coffin. The bald guy tells Jun-sil that the technique is not only for breathing, but also useful for accumulating true Hu the Danshan. It is basically a circulation and breathing practice, which is different from the internal energy techniques that would allow to use the true and in the body. The bald man lets Jun-sil know that there is already 10 years of internal energy in his body. The guy asks Jun-sil the name of his grandfather, and Jun-sil reveals that it is Ban Yan. The moment he says this, the bald one informs him that there is only one person in the Murin with that name, and that he was once called the strongest swordsman of the demonic path. He was also the former vice master of the demon palace, but Jun-sil doesn't want to believe it, because it's impossible for someone as influential as him to become an undertaker. The bald man mentions another peculiar detail, saying that the breathing technique that Jian Yang taught Jun-sil is that of a Salin sect. This surprises Jun-sil because it basically means that the technique is from the orthodox sect, leaving the huge doubt of whether his father was originally a martial master from the orthodox sect. Fear runs through Jun-sil's body because he knows that if the truth comes out, at best he will lose his demon master title, but at worst, he will be killed. The bald man urges Jun-sil not to worry because he does not doubt him. He's pretty sure that the demon palace has investigated his background, and since they didn't find anything, no problem. The bald man then tells Ashiel that he is going to teach him the breathing technique, since he made a promise to the pavilion of the wandering beast. The bald guy lets Ashiel know that he doesn't care if he learned orthodox or demonic martial arts. However, he lets her know that if she ever teaches another person the technique he is about to show her, she will kill him and all his loved ones. Without hesitation, Jun-sil assures the bald man that he is up to the task. Realizing that Jun-sil is ready, the bald guy introduces himself as John Juman. John asks Jun-sil if he knows the difference between orthodox and demonic internal energy cultivation techniques, and Jun-sil says no. He explains that the internal energy cultivation techniques of the orthodox Murim are natural ways of accumulating internal energy in the human body, while the demonic path is bent on using any method necessary to gather internal energy. Basically, that's why they have a huge amount of internal energy from the very beginning, but the methods they use go against the nature of the human body. However, the martial masters of the orthodox Murim end up being superior in the end, thanks to the real one, and that they have accumulated. Yahello then reveals that the technique he is going to teach, he is outside the boundaries of demonic martial arts. He claims that the cultivation technique is the most excellent and miraculous of all cultivation techniques. However, obtaining such power comes at a price, because the learning process is terribly painful. He mentions that he ate his fingers while learning the technique. Apparently, those who can endure such immeasurable pain can achieve a body in complete synchrony with internal energy. He comes clean, revealing that he was once a martial master of the Azure Dragon Temple, but was framed for murder and expelled with his internal energy sealed. It was in the process of recovering the internal energy that he received help from the Wandering Beast Pavilion. And that's why he promised them that he would teach them his internal energy cultivation technique as a way to pay off their debt, since his promise would have failed if he couldn't teach Jun-sil the technique. Joel says he would have to put it to the test first. John tells Ashiel that he is going to use his real Y to drill his 365 acupuncture points at once. He wants to do this to clean his glasses and prepare them to learn the technique. John lets Ashiel know that it's going to be painful and urges her to back off if she can't take it. Jun-sil, being the stubborn brat that he is, assures Joel that he is up to the task. As he is confident that he can overcome it, Joel releases his true chi into Ashiel's body in an attempt to purify it. However, Joel comes across something so shocking that he has never seen before. She expects that Jun-sil is screaming in pain because of how painful the process is, but to her surprise, Jun-sil is calm and silent. It is then that Huel realizes that no bad smell comes out of any impurity from Jun-sil's body, which means that Jun-sil does not have a drop of contaminated energy in their vessels. Huel is so impressed that he screams excitedly, telling Jun-sil that he is going to teach him his internal energy cultivation technique. 6 months later, Jun-sil has undergone severe changes that make him look totally different. He has gained volume and no longer looks like the fragile child he used to be. Joel picks up a rock and throws it to Jun-sil. Instead of moving or trying to break the rock, Sil decides to cultivate his aura, and his aura is so big that he shatters the rock without making a move. Joel is impressed by this and concludes that Sil has mastered the technique. He is amazed by the fact that he was able to learn the technique in just 6 months. During this period, he has been able to disperse the true qi that he had accumulated inside after learning the circulation technique. Then he suggests they proceed to the next thing on their list. A shield is put in position to circulate Suki, and he is very grateful that John taught him everything because he was able to reach the first level in a very short time. However, Asil still thinks that he is falling behind because the circulation technique has 8 levels, and he wants to reach the second level before leaving the mountain. Driven by his immense determination, Sil manages to advance to the next level, surprising John. John can't believe that Sil has just moved on to the second level, which is the realm of pristine bone and muscle. This is a level intended for maximum toning of bones and muscles. However, these sudden changes put a lot of pressure on the body, and, as expected, Sil begins to feel the pain. Blood drips from his mouth as he clenches his teeth, determined to go all the way. Joel quickly runs after Sil to support him. It urges you to keep a blank mind and focus on your goal. Joel then realizes that Sil's body is unable to contain the real Y due to the sudden changes. And the way things are going, he's going to end up with serious internal injuries. Without hesitation, Joel concludes that he has to use his life force to help Sil. She places her hand on Sil's back and shoots her life essence into him to help him overcome it. By the time Sil finishes, he realizes that his body is burning with so much energy, and when he turns around, he sees Yul straining. Sil rushes to check on her, asking if she gave him her true key. Yul can see that Sil is worried and urges him not to be because he really can't leave the Wandering Beast Pavilion until Sil has learned correctly. Sil is surprised to hear this, as he realizes that Joel is actually an attentive person. Even if he tries to appear to be a tough guy, Sil is very grateful for his help and assures the man that he will not forget what he has done for him. However, Jolan is at Sil to forget his existence. Sil is surprised to hear this because it's the same thing Sagwa told him during the competition. John then tells Sil that the only way he can repay him is if he learns the breathing technique very well and reaches the 8th level, which is the realm of the Great Origin. Sil takes a deep breath and assures Joel that he will reach the stage that he could not, because Joel only reached the 5th stage. As Sil has already reached the 2nd stage, John tells her that he no longer needs her teachings. He tells Sil that the next thing he needs is the basics of martial arts. John then tells Sil to climb the cliff at the west end of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, because that's where he's going to train his martial arts. Sil is grateful for everything and bows to Yul in token of gratitude. 3 months later, one of the sect's most competent squads, the Wind Cloud, returns to the pavilion. The squad returns to the pavilion, flying through the rooftops just to show off, because, apparently, they are the best unit there is. The squad leader, Baekhyun, decides to cultivate his aura very well, until Dan shows up to welcome him. Baekhyun slowly removes his mask as he addresses Dan formally. Dan reminds him that he already told him to forget about the formalities, but Baek refuses, saying that the rules of the pavilion have already been relaxed enough. Baek is glad that Dan showed up because he had intended to see him. Baek demands to know why Dan brought one of the 10 demon masters, even though he was against the plan from the beginning. Dan then reveals that Ashiel was the one who chose the sect because he rejected the offer of the Reign of Fire sect. Baek is surprised to hear that a young man chose them. Dan confirms this, saying that the decision almost made him fight. Dan then jokes with Baek, saying that he should be proud of Angel because he chose them. Baek is not entirely happy, stating that that decision is the reason why the Fire Reign sect did not choose any of the 10 demon masters. Baek yells at Dan, reminding him that his sect is under fire from the demon palace, and taking Ashiel under his protection only added fuel to the fire. Dan smiles upon hearing this, reminding Baek that the Wandering Beast Pavilion has never cared about the politics of the Murin, because their goal is to master martial arts. Baek is forced to agree with Dan, but demands to see Ashiel because his position as one of the demon masters is currently on the line. Meanwhile, Eon Seol had visited another master, Gobel, who was once known as the Great Thief. thanks to his technique known as the Speedy Ghost. Gobel boasts about his technique, saying that everyone who has tried to learn it has been crippled because they could not keep up with the rapid changes. Gobel believes that June Seal will join the list of cripples, but to his surprise, June Seal masters the technique in just 1 month. Although he is shocked and stunned, Gobel is also pleased that he has found someone who can inherit his legacy. Because of this, he concludes that he is going to close his dojo. Gobel tells Asil that all he has left is to master the rest of the technique by himself so he can use it in real-life situations. Later, Buck and Dan decide to go see Asil. They are standing on a cliff, watching Asil practice the Speed Ghost technique. Beck confidently says that Asil has no chance since the technique is difficult to master. Beck is left open-mouthed at the way Asil moves, prompting him to ask if Asil has been practicing the move since he arrived at the pavilion. Dan corrects him by saying that Asil learned another technique when he joined. Beck begins to realize that the rumor that Asil learned the wild beast path in 2 weeks is true, and Dan confirms it. Dan mentions that Sagwo gave June Seal all his spirit water, and he believes that's what helped him open the transcendental nerve earlier. Beck disagrees, saying that spiritual water alone is not enough to help him master the technique. Dan then mentions that he is in charge of everything right now because the pavilion master is still in isolation. Beck then mentions that the 10 demonic sects have a problem with the way the situation of the 10 demonic masters has developed so far. Apparently, the real reason they created the 10 demonic masters program was to create prodigies capable of killing orthodox teachers. Beck confirms this, but says that some of the demonic sects didn't know about it, which is why they sent their successors to the competition. Dan thinks this shouldn't be a problem, but Beck lets him know that a big problem has arisen as a result of this. It turns out that the only son of the leader of the White Demon Temple, Kant Morion, died because of Junseal. Dan doesn't really feel sorry for what happened because he thinks it's a matter of skill, as everyone was aware of the risk involved in the competition. Beck adds that the White Demon Temple is not the only sect looking for June Seal's life, but the Reign of Fire sect is also upset. Apparently, they are not happy with the fact that June Seal used the unparalleled lightning and thunder technique, and he is not even his disciple. Gay has been calling for disciplined action. Panarias for this, and Cian was even punished by being expelled from his post. Dan is surprised that they still want to punish Asil, even after they have punished the person who taught him. Beck then reveals that they actually want to put Asil to the test to see if he is really qualified to be one of the 10 most demonic masters. If he fails to prove his worth, he will be deprived of the opportunity to use the sword again. The two are still in the middle of this conversation when Junseal jumps up from where he is to join them, giving praise for his training so far, and then introduces him to Beck. As usual, Asil bows his head as a sign of respect to Beck, and Beck wastes no time in opening his mouth, saying that there is something he wants to discuss with Asil. Dan quickly intervenes, telling Beck to stop because there's no point in telling Asil. However, Asil interrupts, telling the two that he is ready to take responsibility, as it is something that happened because of him. That's when the two realize that Asil must have overheard their argument. Asil apologizes if he was too direct, revealing that he was using the Wandering Beast's path and vibration mind eye. Beck is left incredulous, forcing him to ask Asil if he was doing that too while using movement techniques. Yes, he confirms it, mentioning that he basically followed the vibrations of the water surface. Beck is totally shocked, but Dan is already getting used to the weird things that have been done. What is June Seal doing? Beck is happy that they have a genius among them, and suggests that they put their faith in him. Dan is shocked to hear that Beck suggests they send June Seal to the Demon Palace for the test, when their goal is to kill him. Beck argues, saying that the Demonic Palace only wants to help the temple leader firm the White Demon to feel better, not kill June Seal. Basically, that's why they chose the Demonic Palace as the place for the test, not the White Demon Temple or the Fire Rain Sword sect. Beck lets Dan know that things will only get progressively worse if he rejects the request. The two are still arguing with each other when Unsel interrupts, saying he's ready to go. Yoon Sil says that since they are looking to improve their image, killing him would only make it worse. Moreover, Yoon Sil says that he is a proud disciple of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, and that he does not seek to avoid any fights that come his way. He sees that he agrees with Jeonsil, telling Dan that this is the only way to avoid being bothered in the future. Dan finds himself between a rock and a hard place and is forced to accept. However, he tells Jeonsil that if he manages to pass the test, he must make sure that the aggrieved sex promise to pass the test by overlooking what has happened in the past. With everyone agreeing, Yoon-sil heads to the demonic palace, and as he walks through the door, he realizes that things have changed a lot compared to the first time he walked through those same doors. One of the attendants led him to the Great Hall of the Demon Palace, and informed him that another person would attend to him once he was inside the hall. Yoon-sil looks directly into the Great Hall of the Demonic Palace, which is in charge of all the administrative affairs of the Demonic Palace. Basically, it's the General Strategist Pavilion in the Murin Alliance, and it's where he's going to take the test to prove that he's worthy. And Shiel enters the living room, where he is introduced to the master of the Great Hall, Buck Johnson. The moment John Sion sets his eyes on a seal, he praises his ki, because he has heard a lot about him. John Sion then asks Yoon Sil if he is aware of why he had to come, and the gap between the 10 demonic sects. Yoon Sil is forced to ask the man if the demonic palace and the 10 demonic sects are separate entities. When Sil asks this, Yan Sion realizes that the Wandering Beast Pavilion did not explain the situation to Anseal. Yan Qian then explains that the demonic palace is a union of the sects of the demonic path, comprising the 10 demonic sects. Although the two cannot be separated, they cannot be considered as a single entity either. John Sion says that someone from one of the demonic sects is usually chosen to become the master of the demonic palace, but the former master of the palace was not. He then adds that not all demonic paths are on good terms with the demonic palace. John's soul finally understands the situation, and it's the fact that the two entities are simply cooperating. But there are a lot of demon path sects that hate the demon palace. Junction comes clean, saying that the 10 demon masters' plan was not to choose the successors of the 10 demon sects, but to cultivate talents that would exterminate the orthodox martial masters. Simply put, the 10 demon masters' competition was the demon palace's plan to eliminate the top brass of the orthodox Murim alliance. Apparently, the 10 demonic sects initially rejected the plan, but the demonic palace continued to pressure them until they had no choice but to send their disciples. However, some of the disciples died during the competition, and it is because of Junseal that the demonic palace has found itself in an awkward position. Janshin reveals that she invited Jun Seal to punish him under the pretext that he is taking an exam. He asks Jun Seal if he is aware of this fact, and Yoon Seal says yes. Jun Seal is pleased to hear that Yoon Seal came prepared for the exam. And after talking for so long, Jian Seal suggests that they get straight to the point. Jian Seal mentions that the White Demon Temple and the Fire Rain sect have done Unsel a favor by granting him access to the pavilion of the 10,000 demonic truths. Apparently, it's a room full of files that a CL can consult, and Janshin hands him a gold plaque that will give him access to the room. It turns out that there are 3 floors in the living room, and the plate allows you to enter the first floor, which is the lowest of all. However, even such a hall has about 25,000 different martial arts books, which Jin Shang believes will be a great advantage for a seal. They are basically doing this favor to a seal because there is very little chance that he will pass the exam, so they are trying to make sure no one says anything bad about them. After telling him all this, Honor tells him that the exam consists of him enduring 5 attacks from a martial master, specifically chosen by the White Demon Temple. Junseal reveals that the head instructor actually resigned from his position to make sure that Junseal advanced in the competition. When Junseal asked him why he did this, he simply replied that Junseal would see him very soon. As the exam is getting closer, Jian Xian says he is waiting to see what the head instructor meant by this. After receiving the plaque, Yoon Sil enters the lobby, and that's when she meets Jinguk. Yoon Sil is surprised to see Jinguk in the Demon Palace, and Jinguk explains that he has many connections inside the Great Hall. Basically, he was the assistant to the head instructor on Hell Island, because he was filling in for the Great Hall Master, who was absent during the time of the competition. Jingek then sees the badge on Ashiel's hand, prompting him to ask if she is visiting the Pavilion of Truth for the examination. Yoon Seal confirms this, and as Yoon Seal was once his student, Jingek decides to give him some advice. Jingek lets her know that the Jianghu is a dangerous place, and that no kind gesture is made without a reason. Jingek says that there is always some kind of bad intention or plan behind everything. After saying this, Jingak tells Yoon Seal that he is confident that he will find an opportunity, even in the midst of danger. He also adds that trees grow from their roots, which is basically speaking in parables. Yoon Seal thanks Jingak for the advice, and Jin lets him know that he is supporting him. Moments later, Yoon Seal arrives at the Pavilion of the 10,000 Demonic Truths, which is a very large structure. Upon entering, Yoon Seal can see that the library is not a normal library, and he is amazed by the fact that all the books in the room are martial arts techniques. After walking for a couple of minutes, Yoon Seal could see that it was really a trap. Although the whole room is full of secret martial arts, they are not something I can learn in the space of a day. If you try to do this, you will only end up wasting your time, and you are quite sure that this is what your opponents want. Realizing that the Fire Rain sect and the White Demon Temple are trying to alter your concentration on Ashiel, that it is your duty to stay focused and steady. Just then, Yoon Seal remembers what Hingik said about trees growing from their roots, and suddenly realizes what he's supposed to do. Yoon Seal starts running around the building until he finally finds a book on the inversion technique of the Wandering Beast, which is a book from the Pavilion of the Wandering Beast. Yoon Seal opens the book with enthusiasm, but is surprised by what he finds inside. When your grace period finally ends, exam day arrives. Yoon Seal enters the exam arena where he is addressed by an old man, Gok Kyo-bon, the exam supervisor. Also present in the scene is Yoon Seon, and he is from the Fire Rain Sword sect. There is also a representative of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, Gak, and the last person is Go Gunpian, who is from the White Demon Temple. Gak tells Seon that the White Temple, Blanco wishes to test his abilities as one of the 10 demonic masters. Gog then goes to the representatives of the Reign of Fire sect and the White Demon Temple to ask if they will put aside their grudges. If Yoon Seal manages to pass the test, the two representatives excitedly tell Gog that they will never bring up the past again if Yoon Seal survives the ordeal. As they agree, Gak declares the test open. Go enters the arena and tells Yoon Seal that he is expected to support or block 5 of his moves. Before coming to the exam, Go had received explicit orders to kill Yoon Seal. However, Go is empathetic to the image of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, and because of that, he plans to rip off Yoon Seal's arms in the 5th movement. Go then makes his move, and Yoon Seal is stunned by the fact that Go has just launched his attack without having to prepare, which shows how skilled the guy is. The attack is aimed directly at Yoon Seal, but he is able to jump back, finally dodging the first move. Wasting no time, Go makes his next move, and Yoon Seal soon finds himself the target of a bunch of branching attacks, forcing him to run across the arena just to try dodge the movement. Go is impressed that Ashiel could see through movement, which is thanks to his wild beast senses. However, Go lets him know that he is not safe yet. Before Ashiel realizes it, the 3rd movement is already upon him, and it appears as rain. The entire arena is covered with attacks intended to bring him down. As Yoon Seal is confused about what is real and what is not, he realizes that dodging everything would be better for him. Without hesitation, he goes into overdrive in an attempt to dodge the attack. The attack finally hits, leaving a loud explosion. But when the dust settles, Go is surprised to see a seal standing with only a slight cut on his cheek. It turns out that a seal was able to dodge everything, thanks to the fast ghost technique. Yoon Seal knows that he would have died if Go had intended to kill him right after the attack hit. Go, on the other hand, is disappointed that he wasn't able to hit Yoon Seal as much as he wanted. And the way things are going, I may not be able to cut off his arms. Go then decides to get more serious while preparing the 4th movement, the blow to the heart of the White Demon. The attack seems like a flash of light, leaving Yoon Seal isolated and scared that he doesn't have what it takes to dodge the attack. No doubt, Yoon Seal is pretty sure that he's going to die if he doesn't manage to dodge the attack. Yoon Seal then remembers the martial arts book he found in the pavilion. He was surprised when he opened the book and found that the first pages were dedicated to badmouthing the Wandering Beast Pavilion. However, the last parts of the book detail the weaknesses of the Wandering Beast's path. Ashiel realizes that the insults were at the beginning to make sure that only the disciples of the Wandering Beast path would read it. Inside the book, Ashiel learns that, as a martial artist, he is expected to use his senses and think. It is also expected to amplify such senses when necessary. Now that Ashiel is in a desperate situation, he follows the instructions in the books to amplify his senses just at the last minute. With this, he is able to dodge the White Demon's heart strike technique, leaving everyone shocked in their place. Go can't believe what he's witnessing, because even the martial masters of the White Demon Temple had a hard time dodging such an attack. Go finally realizes why the Fire Rain sect and the White Demon Temple wanted Ashiel to disappear. He has also seen that Ashiel will only grow to make a thorn in his side, and because of this, Go finally decides that Yoon Seal needs to be removed. Go decides to use the very powerful White Demon Divine Snake technique as his fifth move, aiming to kill Yoon Seal once and for all. Yoon Seal initially dodges the blow, but before he knows it, he realizes that the weapon is actually following him with the strong intention of sending him to the afterlife. Apparently, the White Demon Divine Snake is a very dangerous weapon because it doesn't stop until it sheds blood. With this in mind, Go is pretty sure that Junshin is about to lose his mind. Realizing that he cannot escape the attack, Junshin resorts to using the unparalleled lightning and thunder technique. Junshin raises his hand as the attack hits, leaving a bright golden flash. However, this is still not enough to repel the attack. And after holding on for a few seconds, the snake finally makes its way by piercing Junseal's shoulder. The force of this sends Junseal flying into the distance, but he refuses to fall. On your back. He falls to his knees, and although his right arm has lost mobility, Junsu grabs his sword with his left hand. Junsu raises his head and looks intimidatingly dangerous as he shows his willingness to continue the fight. Go is impressed and, at the same time, is afraid that a CL will cause problems for them in the future. Because of this, he decides that the best thing for them is to eliminate a cell. Just as he is about to prepare another move, the representative of the Wandering Beast Pavilion grabs him by the arm, reminding him that he has already exhausted the 5 moves he was given. Go snatches Gak's hand away, trying to act very upset that he touched him. However, Dak responds with a fierce glare, assuring Go that he has no obligation to honor the deal he made with the Demon Palace. If Go is trying to be dishonorable, just then, the representative of the Reign of Fire sect intervenes, saying that Ashiel used a technique of his sect during the test. He suggests that they cancel the test because of this, since that was his complaint in the first place. Gak immediately intervenes, telling the guy that he is already tempting luck because there is no condition that says that Ashiel cannot use the technique of the rest. Lampago and Thunder without equal. Gak then adds that Zion would have been proud that Ashiel would even use the technique. The representative gets angry when he hears this, as he believes that Gak is trying to ridicule his sect. Gak clarifies things by saying that Go just used the most powerful technique of the White Demon arts, but Junseal was able to repel her using the Peerless Thunder technique. Gak says that the only explanation for this is that the technique of the Reign of Fire is superior to that of the White Demon Temple. The moment he says this, Gak immediately creates a rift between the Fire Rain sect and the White Demon Temple, as the Fire Rain sect can't pass up an opportunity that crowns them as the top sect. Because of this, the Fire Rain sect has no choice but to retreat. Gak then informs everyone that the promise that was made will be honored. He declares that Unseal has regained his title as one of the 10 Demon Masters and is also allowed to use the sword. After the statement, Gak turns in the direction of Unseal to tell him that he has proven himself. Just then, he realizes how Unseal is looking at him. Gak comes over to help him rest and realizes that Unseal had already fainted while he was still standing. Soon after, Junseal wakes up again in a strange room. She is shocked to see this and wonders why she keeps waking up in exclusive rooms. Then he remembers the test and worries that he failed. He wonders what would happen if he fails the test. As the situation is currently out of his control, He decides to sit down and circulate his chi in the meantime. While doing this, he realizes that he has a lot of true chi in his body, and remembers Joel's words telling him that he has 10 years worth of true chi in his system. Apparently, he would be more accessible when his acupuncture point was activated. And with what he feels inside him, he believes that the test has activated his acupuncture point. Before he knows it, Yoon Seal reaches the 3rd level of the reverse polarity cultivation technique, which is the realm that provides invulnerability to fire and water. Yoon Seal is in the middle of this when an assistant enters the room and tells him that she is currently in the demonic gathering pavilion. Basically, this is where the old master of the pavilion lives. Ashiel is surprised to hear this, as he expected to have found himself in a medical ward, not in the old man's ward. Ashiel begins to tremble because he knows how important and insane the pavilion of the old man is. He is known as the Blood Demon, and is one of the 3 demons and 3 venerable ones who sit at the top of martial arts. The assistant then introduces herself, saying that she is Jin Seal, and that the old man has asked her to take Jun Seal to the inner hall. Jun Seal becomes even more worried upon hearing this, and Seal lets him know that the old man is waiting for him in the inner hall. On the way to the inner hall, they pass through a beautiful garden that leaves Ashiel hypnotized. He finally reaches the inner hall where the old man is waiting for him. The elder held himself to him before congratulating him on passing the test of the Reign of Fire sect and the White Demon Temple. Yoon Seal thanks the old man for his goodwill, and after drinking the tea, the old man asks him how the tea tastes. Yoon Seal responds honestly, saying that he is not very well versed in the tea business, so he can't particularly say how he feels. The old man wants to know more about Ashiel, but before continuing, he introduces himself as Hokum. Ashiel is amazed because he can't believe he's sitting down in front of the demon that raised the Jeonjo to kill countless orthodox martial masters. Yoon Seal knows that she might not have recognized the old man if she hadn't heard about him before. After Yoon Seal finishes offering his greetings, the old man says that it is a little different from what he has heard. Although Ashiel learned martial arts very late, his muscles and joints are actually flexible. In addition, he has good internal energy, and to Ashiel explains that his grandfather taught him to breathe properly while growing up. Bong then tells Ashiel that she brought him to her chambers instead of the medical ward because she would like to talk to him in private. Bong then makes a very serious offer, telling Ashiel that he would like him to come to the demonic palace after he finishes training at the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Bong says that the Wandering Beast Pavilion may be part of the demonic sects, but they have a system that doesn't align with the other sects. Bong lets Yoon Seal know that after 3 years of arriving at the demonic palace, Bong will meet with the master of the demonic palace to incorporate Yoon Seal as a member of the Dark Sky Squad. This is a great offer because the Dark Sky Squad is the most elite squad in the demonic palace, along with the Sky Assassin Squad and the Soul Annihilation Squad. Boom says that the moment he joins the Dark Sky Squad, his journey to become one of the top brass of the demonic palace is already secured. Bong then asks Yoon Seal what he thinks about the offer, and without even thinking about it for a minute, Yoon Seal rejects the offer, forcing Bong to ask him why. In a calm voice, Yoon Seal explains that learning the martial arts of the Wandering Beast Pavilion requires him to risk his life, and if there is a guaranteed position for him before he even starts, he will become complacent. Bong hears this and bursts out incarcerated, saying that she loves Ashiel's response. Bong mentions that Ashiel has the kind of attitude that a martial artist is supposed to have. Just by laughing, Bong is emitting waves so strong that Ashiel can feel his insides twisting. Bong then tells Ashiel that he will keep watching him because he wants to see how much he will grow in the next 3 years. Bong tells Ashiel that he will see him again in the next 3 years, and Ashiel quickly realizes that Bong is already firing him. Yoon Seal thanks Bong for his time, and then leaves. After he has left, one of the teachers appears from behind, telling Bong that it is the first time he has seen someone refuse such an offer. Bong smiles, telling the teacher that they have to keep an eye on Yoon Seal to see which side they choose later. After reaching a safe distance, Ashiel can finally breathe, and realizes that he almost died just from being in the presence of the old man. Ashiel knows that he would have been a dead man if he had made a stupid mistake when he was in the presence of the old man. Asura is still dealing with the repercussions of his encounter with the old man when someone touches him from behind, asking if he is okay. That's when Asura finally realizes that he has already arrived in the city. He looks around to absorb the peaceful energy that has been absent in his life for a long time. Enzo realizes that he has stepped into a life he never thought he would have. Suddenly, he realizes that he is being followed, and his first instinct is to get a gun. He heads to a gun store and tells the clerk that he wants a gun that he can use just for practice. The man then points a CL at a pile of guns in the corner, telling him to choose. A CL chooses the one that suits him, and then goes to a secluded area outside the city. Once he realizes he is where he can react appropriately, he tells whoever is following him to show up. Just then, a group of martial artists dressed as ninjas emerges from the bushes, praising Ashiel for having such acute senses. Ashiel soon finds himself surrounded, and the leader of the elimination team tells Ashiel that they are there to kill him before he finishes his training. Acting as calm as ever, Yoon Seal tells the assassins that he doesn't know them, but he has no interest in killing them. So he urges them to leave. The assassins respond boldly, telling Yoon Seal that he is the one who is about to die. Since the killers don't move, Yoon Seal decides to speak the only language they understand, which is violence. He unsheathes his sword, but the assassins still think they have no chance against them. The assassins immediately get into formation, and Yoon Seal finds himself surrounded with a plan to attack him at once. Yoon Seal decides not to act rashly, and before he knows it, they are all on him, trying to tear his head from his neck. Yoon Seal manages to block the first wave of attacks, and realizes that the assassins have a very tight attack coordination, with no break in between. He easily realizes that the team has been working together for a long time, which is why their attacks are synchronized. Although their teamwork is amazing, Yoon Seal has been able to deduce something, thanks to the wild beast senses. You realize that they don't have a uniform skill set, and there are gaps between their skill sets. He thinks he can use this against you, and this is what he does without hesitation. Before they know it, he knocks one of them down, surprising the assassins who didn't expect Yoon Seal to decipher his attack pattern. Apparently, they are from the Gundam sect, and believe that their patron should be out of Yoon Seal's reach. The assassins begin to wonder if the Demon Palace has started teaching the Demon Masters how to break the formations. Orthodox. Refusing to surrender, the team leader shouts, telling his soldiers to assume the third formation. Unbeknownst to them, Ashiel is not tracking them by their background or patterns, but by the difference in their abilities. They charge at him, but just like before, Ashiel knocks down two guys. At this point, the assassins start to panic, because they don't expect Ashiel to know superior sword techniques. Ashiel then sets the record straight, telling them that he is not using martial arts against them. It lets them know that what they are seeing is their fight for their life. Survive. Ashiel adds that the assassins are losing because they were very sure they were superior to him, but he, on the other hand, is struggling with his life at stake. The leader of the elimination team starts shaking, because he has always had the feeling that they were the predator, but one Seal changed the things. They have essentially become the prey, while Ashiel is now the one hunting them. Realizing that Ashiel is the demon they don't want to mess with, one of the assassins suggests that they retreat and gather their strength. This infuriates his partner, and he kills him, claiming that the guy is a coward without honor. Asura then asks the leader of the assassins if honor is more important to him than his own life. In his defense, he claims that they don't wield the sword for personal glory, like the demonic sect. He maintains that they fight for honor, and this quite infuriates Asura. He remembers his father in the coffin, and goes after the murderers with more force than before. Yoon moved so fast that the leader of the assassins only saw him after he had finished skewering him and his teammates. The killer crashes to the ground, and talks about how Yoon has become one of the demons. He starts saying silly things like cursing Ashiel in the afterlife. But Ashiel doesn't care because they are the ones lying on the earth, not him. Ashiel is surprised that he is forced to kill people, even after he has left Hell Island. This basically tells him that he is trapped in an environment of violence, and that there is no escape for him. However, he is not worried because he considers that this is a price he has to pay for walking the path of revenge. Just then, a carriage arrives on the scene, and Beck comes out from inside the carriage, looking pleased by what he is looking at.